What is up, Fortnite fam, and welcome to the PlayVS College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. I'm your host, Miniman, and joining alongside me today is, of course, Somebody's Gun. Now, I'm very hyped for Somebody's Gun. What about you? It's going to be an amazing day.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see the best collegiate trios here in North America going head-to-head, and it's been building for several seasons now. A lot of these guys have been multiple season competitors. It's going to be awesome to watch.
Yeah, it really is. We've got PlayVS here bringing you all of the action, of course. Some of the big names, some of the lesser-known names, of course, as well, coming together, making and putting on a big show today, of course. We've got trios. We've got 6 games of Fortnite action. It's going to be so much fun today. But, of course, we have to talk about a little bit as to where these guys have come from, where the players have come from to get to today's tournament, the finals. So, of course, on October 28th, they went through the first set of qualifiers. On the November 4th, we saw the second qualifier at 5:30 p.m. EDT, of course, as well. Then the qualifiers from those made their way into the semi-finals on November the 8th. And then if they made their way all the way to today, which is November the 18th, it is the finals. They made their way all the way here today. It's been a long, grueling road, Gun. I mean, it's going to be great to see how they perform on the biggest stage here.
It definitely has been, and not only just specifically for this tournament, but for overall. We've been playing trios all year, even a little bit longer than that. So now the time, the effort, the chemistry has all been put together. The groundwork's been laid, and now we're going to see what is going to be put on display by these trios. Truly going to be fascinating, Miner.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. It is going to be fascinating indeed. But if you guys at home do want yourselves an opportunity to get involved in something like this, then there are more opportunities to come in the future. To enroll yourself into this, if you are eligible, the enrollments for that do open on the 15th of November, which was obviously a few days ago. So you're in the enrollment period. You're okay. Then they do close on the 7th of December. So make sure you get your enrollments in before then. The qualifier number 1 then starts at on the 8th of December. Then qualifier number 2 kicks off on the 10th of December. If you manage to make your way through that, of course, you get into the semi-finals, which is on the 15th of December. And if you and your trio are really up to it, you can make your way to the finals just before Christmas on the 17th of December. What a perfect time for a finals that day, Gun. That's amazing. So maybe some cash going towards Christmas.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like a little Christmas gift right beforehand. But, hey, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We got a tournament going on right now, and we have some different pieces to learn about how exactly this tournament works.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Of course, PlayVS is putting on some incredible pricing pools for these tournaments, of course. We're going to be talking about today's prize pool right here. Look at this, Gun. This is unbelievable. $9,000 going to our first place team today. That is no small chunk of change.
Oh, by no means. That's over $3,000, or exactly $3,000 if I'm doing my math correctly, per person for winning. And then you look all the way down to the bottom, still coming in at 20th. You're bringing home $50 just for showing up today and getting 20th place. I mean, you have something to play for every single match, because you never know how big of a game you're going to have, and you could jump up spots, walk away with a lot more money than you thought you were going to.
Yeah, you really could. We've seen it in tournaments before. One game can make all of the difference. And we've got to give a big shout out to PlayVS, of course, putting on these collegiate prizing for these players today. A really, really great beneficial. Of course, you are participating in these esports tournaments whilst also getting an education as well. It's a really great combination of the two, and a really great opportunity for us to put on a show for you guys, because, I mean, these players are going to put on a show. We're going to be spectating. It's going to be so much fun to see how they can perform and pop off today in that important trios tournament. Because as you spoke about before, we have seen trios for the whole of 2021. A lot of these teams will be sort of manufactured throughout that whole time, and really sort of used to playing the trios format.
Yeah, we've been playing the same format for a long time, but I mean, let's look exactly what our format is for today. We're going to see a very heavy placement based format. Each elimination is 2 points, but look at that at the top. 57 points for the victory royale. I mean, just you're getting in the top 5, you're bringing 43 points home per match. That is huge, Miner.
That really is huge. Getting into that high placement is going to be absolutely vital. But as you mentioned, 2 points per elimination is a definite good amount of points right there. These teams may be able to go for some high elimination games. Maybe we'll see a little bit more of the W key style today. But of course, as you mentioned, those placement points are going to be absolutely invaluable for these teams to be sort of going for today and really making sure that they can get all the points that they can. But before we do go into the games, we do have to talk about the players that are going to be competing in today's finals event. As we know, it is a custom games format. It is a single lobby, so these are our teams. We're going to be seeing them all day. Is there any names here that stick out to you, Gun?
I mean, we just did the solos on Monday, and Isaac was able to win that. He's coming in as a heavy favorite, in my opinion. We also have Mars, Seven, and Beggs. Those guys have won their own Play versus Trios event. There's a lot of veterans within the scene that are going to be competing today, and I would expect them to really pop off. But everyone's here for a reason. They've all made it this far, so watch out for somebody we've never heard of. That is going to be the true story of today, is who makes a name for themselves, and PlayVS is putting on the opportunity for these guys to do that.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. Of course, the beauty of PlayVS, we get to see some names we haven't seen before, but of course, some bigger names as well. But before we do get into a game number one, we do have a message from PlayVS to our community.
So PlayVS would like to start today's stream with a remembrance for Control. He was a valued member of our community, and unfortunately he passed away on Monday. Control was going to compete in this Trios finals, and he was one of our most well-regarded and well-known players who made many friends within our community. Control was an integral piece in shaping PlayVS Fortnite since Season 0 through conversations with PlayVS staff and creating a sense of community in our Discord today. He placed multiple times in our solos and trios leagues, and he will be dearly missed by all of us. Our community has decided to remember Control today by wearing some of his favorite skins. He loved to wear Focus, Jules, Tilted Technique, and the female NBA crossover skin, the Giannis number 34 Bucks jersey. He also loved to wear the Shattered Wings, the Crystal Wings, as a back bling. Control's family has shared a GoFundMe link to help with his funeral costs, which we've shared with Twitch by using !Control in chat. And in remembrance of him today, we'd like to take a moment of silence before we begin this event.
A really lovely way to remember Control right there. But now it is time to kick off the Fortnite action. We've got game number one coming up, Gun. It's going to be a very, very exciting game. It's 6 games of Fortnite action today. Trios format, of course, as well. So it's going to be interesting. What are you going to be thinking about going into game number one? How do you feel like these teams are going to be going into it?
Well, there's going to be a lot of game planning that you think you knew, and then you're going to get punched in the face and realize, all right, I actually don't know what's going on. I have to figure something else out. That counter punch, or the counter strategy of whatever you're doing on the back half of the tournament, I love to see. That's my favorite part. You know, in the beginning of these Fortnite tournaments, we see players and teams really set the foundation. They figure out, okay, here's what's working, here's what's not. Then they go ahead and move forward, either continuing to do what's not working or counter strategize and find a plan that actually does work. That's my favorite part of Fortnite, is that the cerebral part, the thinking. What about you, Miner? What are you expecting here, or what do you want to see, either or?
Well, I'm excited for today. I mean, we've got 6 games of Fortnite Trios action. I personally love the Trios format. It's such a great format to watch, such a great format to cast. So we get to see so many new names coming together, new teams sort of coming together as well, some great storylines. But today in particular, I agree. I'm excited to see the development of the teams. Will they be able to progress their sort of skills and their strategies throughout the 6 games? Will we see a bit of a little moment in game number 3 or 4 where they think, actually, maybe this isn't working, we rotate that way instead of this way? I completely agree with that. But I want to see one team at the beginning, game number 1, starting it off with a bang, going for high ground and getting a 25 elimination victory royale. That's what I want to see. A big win from one of these teams, a real statement at the beginning. That's what I want to see. I think it's going to be very exciting. And of course, we're going to be talking about high ground. We're going to be talking about low ground as well. It's going to be interesting to see which one comes out on top in the end and how that develops throughout the whole of the games today. Well, we do have 6 games coming up today, Gun, and it's really a mental side of the game as well. How do you manage that going into each and every game, making sure your team is still on the good vibes and your team's still performing well?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I wish I could answer that properly. The only thing I can say is just understanding every single match matters, and a big piece is not letting the last game or the next game affect your current game. And I think that's huge. A lot of the top players really understand to live in the moment, and you can only control that one game. You can't control what happened in the past. You can learn from it, or you can continue to let it linger and it hurts you. But once it's over, it's over. You got to move on. You have to play the game in front of you and what you're given. And I think we'll see that here today. I mean, we've talked about a couple of the bigger names, and there's even a couple sleepers. Some of my buddies that I see every once in a while are playing today. So I'm definitely ready and excited to see what goes on.
Yeah, as am I. It's going to be so much fun today. But before we do get into this, we're going to be hopping straight into a trailer for you guys to enjoy before we do get into game number 1. What a hype trailer right there. If that doesn't get you excited for game number 1 about to kick off, then I don't know what will. Minimana and Somebody's Gun here breaking down the action for you going into these games. It's going to be great. That trailer's got me hyped. I hope it's got you guys hyped at home as well. And I hope it's got you hyped too, Gun, because it's going to be an exciting day today.
Oh, by all means. You said it earlier. Trios is one of your favorites. I think it's by far my favorite. I love the team game modes, the ability to try and mix and match players, understand strengths, weaknesses, and in solos you're relying on yourself. But I'm a team player. I grew up playing team sports, and to see this implemented for collegiate players, I love to see that camaraderie, the chemistry that comes together to allow these players to become as great as they can as a full trio.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I think a lot of these players will have gone into this sort of tournament with some scrim experience, hopefully they would have, really practiced with their tree. And I think that's a point you really mentioned right there. So important is the chemistry between 3 players. Maybe it's slightly more difficult to gain that chemistry as a 3-person team as opposed to a duo where, it's just you and one other person. So I think that brings an extra element to the sort of competitive nature of the trios mode because, you never know how a team could perform. One day a team could absolutely pop off. We talk about Bizik. I mean, we have to talk about Bizik as well today because he absolutely popped off in the solo day the other day. It was an unbelievable performance from him, and it's going to be interesting to see how that chemistry will translate itself into the trio mode because a lot of these players will be, trio driven and they're well practiced in the trio mode, but I'm sure there'll be some players here that are sort of more solo focused players as well, and I think that definitely has a part to play when it does come down to the solo clutches. When we see some insane solo clutches from some of the solo players left as a solo in the end, it's one of my most favorite parts about trios because it's all about that solo clutch, it's all about that one person, and it's all about game number 1 because I'm getting word that the battle bus is launching. The players are on the battle bus. I'm ready. You're ready, Gun. I know that, and I hope you guys are ready at home too. We're going to be hopping right into game number 1 right now, and here it is. What a start.
Here we go. Game number 1. We're already seeing some interesting strategies. A couple of players going for those turrets that are at the IO bases, and on your left side, you get to see the map. This is always one of my favorite views to check out how these players are landing and how the map is playing out because there'll be a couple contested POIs. Maybe, who knows? Maybe everyone did their homework and they're like, all right, well, I can carve out at least this much of the map. But otherwise, everyone tries to claim their space. And that's what game 1's about, really making whatever you can grab work and finding ways to continue that momentum or changing it up after that. And now we're tuning in with Archer, who is landing over at one of these splits.
Yeah, a little bit of a split drop here. It could be a sludgy swamp split for Archer and his trio right here. It looks as though they are going to be sort of splitting this area. We saw before about the sort of changes that have gone on at the sludgy swamp area. Of course, formerly the slurpy swamp, and it has been changed as of Season 7. We saw it get abducted, actually, by aliens, which is quite an interesting little thing that's happened. So that doesn't happen every day, does it? So yeah, the POI got abducted. There's now 10 chest spawns at that POI, which is definitely not as much as was there before. But we're hopping on board now with YouTube Britix, who does appear to be at the Steamy Stacks area, trying to get some shots off with that green burst, but it's really not the weapon that you really want from that range, is it, Gun? It's really a sort of a more medium range weapon.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to be able to hit those shots consistently. Even if you're an aimer, it's not the easiest. And the first shot accuracy takes some time. You really got to wait until you take that shot. But now we're going all the way down to the southeast corner of the map where we are seeing some fights happen. We saw Russo land up at the IO base. So it appears they've dropped down, tried to take this fight. And now they're jumping on this trio down below. They've taken out one, getting some shots down on another. And it looks like Pearl, Russo, and Nathaniel going to be able to get one elimination. I only see the one opposing player, so got to be someone lurking around here, or they're already out of this fight.
Yeah, they may have already been out of it. Of course, this is maybe a sort of boxed in area of the map, you know, this sort of Camp Cod area. If you do get in a fight here, there's not too many ways to escape. Of course, there are launch pads around. You can see that one has already been placed down by one of these players. You have the zip lines. Of course, you do have that blue cube just outside of the POI as well, which is definitely a pretty good way to rotate. But I think it looks as though Pearl and his trio right here have taken out at least one of the opposing trio, and that's really a great thing for them to have this kicked off with a nice elimination. This whole event kicked off with a bang. It's absolutely incredible for them to do, which is good. I think that gives them a boost of confidence. It ensures that they are feeling good going into this, as is Nathaniel, we see on the sort of Camp Cod area as well. Looks like he's got himself some decent loot here, but lacking in the shotgun department at the moment for him. But no, is that another player? No, it's an NPC that is just breaking all the bills right there. Almost got me worried for a second for Nathaniel, because they do scare me sometimes, those NPCs. I always think they're actual players.
Hey, especially when they're breaking your builds like that, you don't even know whether or not it's a player or an NPC right off the bat. But at least the NPCs are able to give you something. We're watching a fight over at Pleasant. This looks like another third party coming out of the crash site right nearby. And Sniftro trying to get out of here. His teammate has already gone down. This is not a good position to be in.
Yeah, this really isn't. Right in the center of Pleasant Park. So many people looking at you, so many pairs of eyes that are going to be focusing themselves onto you, especially when you're in the center and there's so many teams that are around. It looks like they're going to try and get away with one of these IO cars right now. Not quite going to be successful in doing that yet, because the car was so weak. But the Sniftro and his trio, it looks always duo at the moment, because it looks as though the other player did go down. So if they can manage to escape here, this is going to be absolutely vital for them. But the only difficulty with doing that, if you are contested off spawn, you are going to miss out on all of the loot privileges that drop spot offers you. So we see Tabichi right here, one shot call, of course, as well in this trio. Very exciting trio landing at Pleasant Park, really trying to set a statement, set a standard for game number one. They really want to make sure that they can dominate their drop spot. And I think that's one of the most important things for one of these trios, is if you are contested, winning that first off spawn fight, it not only allows you to stay in the game for game number one and get as many placement points as possible, but it also allows you to have the upper hand almost mentally over your teammates or your enemies that are landing there. You know, you really don't want to be getting eliminated off spawn in game number one, because it can really bring the team down slightly. And if you are on the winning side of that off spawn engagement, you've got to be feeling good for the rest of the tournament.
Well said. And exactly what you said, it really sets the tone for these trios. We'll see if Pleasant winds up being uncontested moving forward, but not only is that going to be huge as far as the mental aspect and physically winning, getting those points right off spawn, but look at that number in the top left corner. We have one trio that's gone down and 93 total players remaining.
Wow.
So these early game fights are going to allow you to get some damage, and I'm sure we'll talk about Storm Surge at some point. If now is that moment, we can explain it. But Miner, those fights early are so key, and we're checking out another one right here.
Yeah, they really are. I mean, being contested off spawn is definitely regarded as a bit of a negative thing for a lot of these trios, but it can be a really big positive, because you can take these off spawn fights. You don't necessarily have to jump in the boxes, as we see Lomain and his trio doing right now. They're just sort of staying back, taking as many assault rifle shots as possible, because this is a really great opportunity to get these tags. You really don't want to be left stranded with your sort of low damage when you're later on in the game. You really want to be making sure that you're staying afloat with those tags and getting them early on, getting them out the way. It's almost like getting your homework done on the day you get it, you know, instead of leaving it till the night before. Is an interesting way of thinking about it. Get it done as soon as you can, and then you don't have to worry about it. I like the way this trio are operating. They're getting it involved and getting their players involved and getting the Storm Surge tags nice and early, and they're being proactive with that, which is really useful.
And we see all the rotations are coming through so quickly. Typically, you know, you're playing your arena game, you don't really start moving until, depending on your loot, maybe the end of first zone. But in these custom lobby style of tournaments, it is vital to get your loot quickly and move to a priority position. Now, what is a priority position? That's going to be a higher position with great vision and information around you. So a hill on top of a building, these are all going to help you get storm surge, get tags, and get that vital information about where players are rotating and where they're at, because ultimately, Miner, info is so important in any battle royale, and especially in this one that we play.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Getting as much information as possible is so vital. And that's why we're going to see a lot of these players today sort of going for a little bit of a cone strategy. We see it so often, them sort of looking through the cone, not exposing themselves to potential shots from enemies, but they can still utilize the abilities of the cone, being able to see through them. Of course, the cone does go transparent when you are holding an edit. It allows you to really get an idea as to where everyone is. As we're seeing Conman and his trio are doing right now, they're just looking. They're seeing an opportunity to get some Storm Surge tags on King Balk and Co, as they are rotating around, and utilizing these cars and these vehicles early on can have its advantages. It allows you to cover a large area of the map in a very quick amount of time, but of course there are people that will be looking. There are enemies that will be looking for opportunities to get as many tags as possible, because you're almost an easy target when you're in a vehicle like that, because the opposing trio knows you're all sat in there, you're all in a condensed area together, and definitely can sort of wind up getting a few good connection shots on the team that's in the car, because it definitely can bolster their storm surge. And I think they found a llama here. I think that's why they moved. Yes, they did.
Yeah, this is going to be huge for him. Not even the materials, more so it's the chili chug splashes that give you that HP as well as the speed boost. I find them best used during endgame, but any kind of rotation when you're getting an extra little speed boost is going to help you out. Those chili chug splashes are only found in the llamas, and you'll see players that have them more often than not wind up doing well in these endgames, whether it be eliminating a player or finding a llama in these mid games. But now we're checking out Bizik. He's going to be one of our favorites going in. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, he just won the solo event on Monday. I believe his trio won the last trio event as well. So these guys are doing really, really well and have to be a heavy favorite.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to be there for that trio event. It was a fantastic win from Bizik. He actually ended up clutching up as a solo right in the last game as well. He really put on a show. And of course, his trio is very well practiced in that department as well. We've seen Ghost, we've seen Rix. They know how to operate as a trio. And I think this sort of experience, this long-term chemistry that these guys are building up is really going to be of value to them today. It's really going to be beneficial, because not only are they going to be able to play, to an incredible level and stage, they will also be able to rely on each other a little bit more than, maybe if this was a newly formed trio. They understand how each other fight. They understand the movements, the play style, and the comms from each of the players. So I think that's going to be invaluable for them today, as it looks like Bizik did get lit up a little bit there whilst he was up on top of that wood structure. Ghost, of course, getting some great Storm Surge tags on the edge there. And you notice that the next zone is actually really, really close to them. So they are able to stick around here. They're able to chill, and they can try and farm as many tags as they can.
Yeah, this is a favorable zone pull if I've ever seen one, and we're just going to see them hang out. Then eventually at some point they're going to decide, all right, we've gotten enough. It's time to move on. We need to find a better position in zone, and typically you don't see players fighting for these positions in second zone. You kind of just take what you can get and then play around that. Sometimes, we see a fight or two, especially based on Storm Surge. We will start to see Storm Surge warnings pop up here at the end of second zone, but it doesn't take effect until third zone. So once this second zone closes and we see third zone appear, there needs to be 70 players or less in the lobby. Otherwise, players are going to be ticked for Storm Surge, and there it is popping up. That's showing you how much damage below that they are, and that's based on the total damage of trios in the lobby. It's not a static number, it's not the same, but you have an idea of about how much you need every game, and that'll be up to Felix, Mist, and Scav to get themselves above that number within, let's call it 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Yep, they have to be proactive in looking for those right now, as it looks like they are being on the receiving end of some shots from Mandinka and co, who appear to have sort of boxed up on either end of this bridge, which I like. I like this strategy. It allows you to sort of cover a lot more of a sort of wide area. You know, you have a wider scope when you're sort of splitting up as a trio. Of course, the team on the one side of the bridge can look towards the south, and the Mandinka on the northern side of the bridge can just sort of scout out the north side, and it just allows this team to really find as many tags as they can. As we see Gage, Exceed, and Shades, these guys are popping off as well with the Storm Surge. They've already got a good amount, which is great. Haven't quite got the eliminations yet, but 200 above at this stage is going to be really, really vital for them, and that's what we talked about earlier. Getting those tags early on, it allows them to, you know, not have to worry too much about it going into the end game, but they're in a really good position right now. They can hold this team. The Storm is going to be on J-Mix team's back right here, and Gage and co, they can just wait. They're in zone. They can chill. They have a good base going as well. So it looks as though Taxis looks as though he's building up all the way on top of this team right now, and they're going to have to box up so one of them doesn't get beamed, and saving heals is going to be an absolute... It's going to be of importance for this team now, I think, because going into the end game, you don't want to be going into the end game with lack of heals.
Yeah, you definitely don't, and these guys are just playing this patiently. They have no need to take this fight, and just, you know, shout out all rocking the Giannis number 34 jersey as well as the back bling. Love to see the support for Control, and these guys clearly are veterans. They've been playing for a long time, and respect to their former teammate.
Yeah, it's great to see. I mean, really, really nice of them to do that. Of course, a really great way to respect Control, and now they're in a bit of an engagement themselves. Exceed, Shades, Old Man Gage. It looks as though they're on the sort of back end of a fight, and it looks as though they did get a knock right there. It was a nice knock from one of the teammates on top of their builds, which is absolutely vital. They can then utilize that body. I believe they got it down. Yeah, it was J-Mix who does get taken out right there. Exceed, of course, getting the full finish on that as well. Jonathan Plays getting beamed as well, just on the other side towards this new little pyramid area, which I really do like. But we can't talk too much about the POI as well. So these guys are taking so many ticks of storm damage. The storm surge damage, they really need to try and look for as many tags as they can, and that's why they're not holding the walls for Jonathan. Jonathan's taking this big pot, which is great to see, managing to get himself above on his HP, and they need to look about getting themselves above on the surge as well. And no, Bank Life does go down right there. They do manage to get themselves a good amount of storm surge in the process, but again, they haven't got the heals necessarily. They won't be able to get Bank up and get him into a good, healthy position, because no, none of them appear to have any heals at all. Not even a little small fry or anything. They haven't got anything to heal him back up. So staying above right now for this team is going to be absolutely vital. And it looks as though they might be under pressure from Verminous and co.
And I think both teams need Surge. That's why this fight's happening. 7 more players need to go down. We see Empty going for the medkit play. Verminous hitting some heals as well. And then Crush on the backside looking to support this. But you can't out-heal Storm Surge. It doesn't stop. If you don't get damage, you will not get above it. And that's what you're seeing happen right now. These guys need to go in and get some damage done, but are also getting ticked away. We see Verminous go down in the feed. Unfortunate. That's likely due to Storm Surge and people realizing what's going on around them. Now we're back seeing Jonathan having to pick up Bank once more. Crush is going to pick up the knock on Bank, but I think that's going to be all for our first Storm Surge. Man, 90 players? That was a ton, and that's going to be a problem for all these guys moving forward. You'll have to figure out some strategies and plans in order to counteract the Storm Surge.
Yeah, that's absolutely vital. Getting a really, really good strategy going into this is going to be absolutely vital. And even if you don't have necessarily the most solid strategy going into game one, you can learn as a team. You know, you're in the same lobby with the same players, game in, game out today. 6 games with the exact same players. You're going to get to know these players quite well. You're going to get to know where people are going to be rotating. So this is going to be an opportunity for these players to learn. Off the bat, you know, we don't necessarily know where all of these teams are going to be landing. They don't necessarily know how they're going to rotate or what sort of strategies they're going to be putting into place today, but learning from that, as we spoke about earlier, the development of these trios and how they're going to develop and strategize their way to success today is going to be absolutely vital. And that Storm Surge is definitely a huge point to consider for a lot of these teams. As we see there's the next zone polling, it is the 4th zone, and it looks as though Felix and co do seem to be on the better end of it than many other trios. They want to try and be on the edge of this zone, because if you can pull 5th, then that's going to be such a vital moment for this trio. As we see Felix and co, they do have the 6 chili chug splashes as well. So even if they do have to rotate far, even if they do have a bit of a trek, they can definitely make it.
And we see this, it's fairly spread out right now. In that bottom right corner, you see the mini-map, all these players spread out all throughout the zone, and as the zones get smaller and smaller, players and teams begin to go on top of one another and fight for that space. Some teams are, they're friendly. They're like, all right, yeah, you guys go above us or below us. We can do that. Other teams, they will fight you for every inch of space that they have gained and will not give up a single piece. So it all depends what trio you're walking into, but right now we see the 88 squad. These guys are looking for some more tags already based up in zone. Man, Miner, whoever that was on the far south side, those green players, they just got blessed with zone.
Yeah, they really did. That is an absolutely amazing pull for them. Even if they do have the mobility items to sort of manifest themselves into a position to get into that high ground, it is also still very, very good to pull that zone. It means you don't have to use those heals too early on, or indeed those rotations. It's going to be absolutely vital for them. As I think we saw it. I think it was Felix's team, actually. And I believe they did have the chili chug splashes, so they don't have to use those too early on, which is going to be great. And you spoke about it earlier, Gunn, how vital those chili chug splashes can be when it comes to the end game.
They are, and now we're going to see how this fifth zone winds up pulling. This is also going to be another storm surge, so we got to get below 50 players in the next 40 seconds. Otherwise, we're going to once again see storm surge fight all the trios that are below in damage. Right now, King Balk and Co. are going to be one of them, but everyone's just kind of posting up, finding their way on the edge of this zone. Not many players go into the middle like you spoke about, Miner. You don't want to play the middle of these zones. You're not going to pull it. You're just looking, crossing your fingers, hoping you get a fifth zone pull here.
Yeah, that's definitely a very, very good way to play this. You see a couple of teams sort of centered towards the middle of this zone. It can be definitely a strategy to play, but I think in lobbies this stacked, you really just have to gamble, particularly when you have that launch pad potential as well. It definitely is a good opportunity to, go for that edge of this zone, this fourth zone, because you never know, you might pull the fifth zone, as we're about to see where that fifth zone does pull, and only 2 teams are in it. It is up towards the northeast side of the zone right here, so a lot of these teams will have to think about rotating. Potentially we could see the launch pads coming out as well. And here's a great shot. So many players on the opposite side to zone where this half and half fifth zone is going to position itself. It's going to be a tough one for a lot of these teams, but particularly for the teams that are going to be out in the open. We see Edge's team right there, and we can see another team that's going to be getting focused a lot as well. It's Diddy, Dank, and Defying right here. These guys are looking a little bit in a worse position down here at the bottom, but I think they might be able to make a good rotate if they can use that launch pad.
And this is when I would want to use it. You could save it for later and try and use it for first moving, but you're not guaranteed first moving. You got to use it and at least try and stay alive. You can't really spend the mats on this rotate, as we see the materials that Dankline has. They are going to pop the pad, look for the rotate, and try and find themselves a position. They're going over in this metal, popping on this cone and playing up a level, giving themselves some space. That's a nice little rotate. Able to get the whole team back together, not spend too many mats. And once again, this little overview, I love these shots to see exactly how zone's playing out. You get to see how the rotates are being made, what the levels are going on. And right now, Felix and his team are on the high ground looking to play that position.
Yeah, and I think that's really down to them having that edge position in fourth zone. We saw it earlier. We saw how really lucky they were, I guess, with that fourth zone pull. But what they've been able to do is they've been able to use that to their advantage. So they have now been able to take that high ground, and hopefully for them, they will be able to hold it out until the end. In trios, it is a little bit more easy to hold out that high ground. You have, of course, 3 inventories worth of mats. You have plenty of items as well as mobility. You have you have so many inventory loadouts. You have 15 slots that you can take chili chug splashes, you can take peppers, you can take heals. It becomes so much easier to hold on to that high ground, and it's going to be interesting to see whether Felix and co do opt for that strat, or whether they think, okay, we have ourselves a launch pad, maybe we try and launch to the front side of zone and maybe crank up from there. If we do get it, then great, we have it. But I don't think at this stage for Felix and co, especially going into game number 1, is it really worth the risk trying to hold out high ground here, because there might be a team front side of zone they're going to be able to sort of crank up to height with a lot more materials.
Yeah, and I'd expect them just to stay here and then pad to the front side once they go for it. We do see Felix waiting. He's going to chili his team. That gives you the extra little speed boost. Nice little addition before you drop it. Edge4 is going to play up. He does get hit a decent bit, but going to continue to play that high ground. Felix calls off the high ground play. They're going to look for mid and probably play it later. They need to get back together because the trio got split. And then we see Arrow, Derpy, and Dylan on front side in a really good spot, getting shot up, but no damage dealt. Mars and Co. also going for the high ground. Felix using both pads and first moving. Pretty typical strategy, and he's using it very efficiently, saving all those materials, landing front side. They're basically in zone with 0 to, let's call it 10 materials spent.
Yeah, that's really, really good from them, utilizing those pads early on when the zone is still quite large as well. You do have a long way to rotate, and utilizing those pads is going to be absolutely the perfect way to rotate in that zone. Now, though, we're seeing 7 Mars and Co. all the way up on high ground. They do have themselves 2 eliminations already. I'd be interested to see if any of these teams do have a harpoon as wow. Beggs absolutely lasers one of the players down below. That could be a crucial refresh for him if he is going to go for it, but no, I don't think he is. He's going to retain the high ground and ensure that him and his team are going to be staying on top for game number 1. That's a great elimination from him right there, though. I don't know if he's going to get the finishes. It looks so finicky. It's going to be able to carry his teammate through into a potential revive position, but a really, really great knock from him right there as Leppy and Conman appear to be as a duo. They do have a lot of eliminations, though. They have 5 so far.
Yeah, they're trying to secure as many points as well. Someone jumps on them. Down he goes, and they're both getting taken out really quick there. Leppy was able to pick up 1 elimination before he went down. Ghost grabbing a couple in the feed. That's Bizek's trio taking down a couple of players that was cut jumping there on Leppy. We see Bizek able to get another elimination. These guys are on ultimate low trying to claim it, but there's another trio down here. This is going to be fighting for this space. It's going over the water, which makes it a little more difficult. No, actually, we're going back up the hill. You need to understand that you cannot stay on this layer. You have to layer change. Grab some elevation here, not much, but you can't get buried down below. Up above, it is Beggs, Mars, and 7 just chilling on high ground. Felix, Gavin, Miss playing second height, getting punished. Absolutely dealing the damage and the pressure down onto that second height trio, but Beggs, Mars, and 7 don't have too much ammo. They're going to have to let this play out and hope that they just win it on top.
Yeah, they might just have to. I mean, it'd be interesting to see whether they do have those white heals as well. Potentially, if it does go to a heal off, that could be the way that sort of bails them out here. Because as you mentioned, they don't seem to have too many materials at all. I'm not too sure if that's consistent throughout the whole trio, but with the way that they're sort of not building and really playing a little bit more sort of passively here, I do believe they don't have too many materials. As right now, we see another team. It's Mystics, Felix, and Scarv on the sort of mid-ground layer. They haven't opted for full, though, yet, and we saw them on high ground earlier. But I think the material count looking pretty low for them is definitely a factor in that decision. We have 4 teams left, one of which being Mystics, Felix, and Scarv. It appears as though there are 2 full teams. We saw the team on high, and we see this team as well. So maybe it's 3 full teams and a solo. We could be seeing that, I think. So it's going to be an interesting finish as potentially we have 3 full trios going into the endgame.
And this is going through a lot of old builds, which really helps these mid-ground teams. That is so bad for your height team, especially with no ammo. And then we see this trio here on low. They're dealing with no pressure. And it is 3 full trios in a solo. Down goes the solo. Felix is going to take out Riddix. Then Mystic gets dropped into a box. He's going to go down. Arrow cleans that up. He's taking down the elimination, and these guys continue to move forward. That refresh will help them extend this game, give them just a little bit more pressure coming from up above. Not enough ammo to continue that pressure. Arrow's going to look to make a medkit play. He gets popped up above. Doesn't realize his top's open. That's Mars cleaning him up. Now it is all up to Dylan trying to make a play in the backside of zone. It's 7 cleaning it up, though, for the victory royale. 10 eliminations for Beggs, Mars, and 7 in game number 1.
Absolutely splendidly done from that trio. They took high ground at the absolutely perfect moment. They took it just after that 5th zone had showed. They held it throughout the whole time as well. Even when the material count was dwindling, they had almost nothing up on high ground. We mentioned it. The ammo was not there. The materials not there. But what was there was their skill, their ability to drop down, get those final eliminations, and clutch out the victory royale. That was an incredible game from them.
Yeah, those guys literally, they just like stuck it in cruise control, put their feet up. They're like, all right, we got it. We're on high ground. Doesn't matter anymore if we have mats or ammo. But let's take a look at some of those awesome moments from that game number 1 and see some of these star-studded plays.
Yeah, Bex and Co right there, getting the high ground very, very well. We saw game number 1. It did not disappoint at all. What an exciting game that turned out to be. And I think my prediction was almost right. I mean, they didn't quite have 25 eliminations, but they took the high ground so effectively well, and they held it throughout that whole time as well. They managed to clutch up, get so many eliminations as well. And really a great clutch from Isaac and Co all the way down on low ground. Couldn't quite come up with a victory royale, but as we saw earlier, the elimination points are definitely worth it for these teams as well.
Yeah, a lot of the expected trios did really well in game 1, and I mean, it's expected for a reason. Fortnite is an unpredictable game, but to see a lot of the top trios performing there in the first match, you know something's going on up here. They figured something out. They know exactly how to play this game before they went into it. Impressive to see, Miner.
Yeah, it really is impressive to see, and I'm sure they would have had so many strategies going into game number 1. I'm excited to see what that means for our leaderboard for our upcoming games, of course, well, game 2 to 6. But before we do get into that, we do have to take a short little break, so please do stick around, and we'll see you all for game number 2.
Running it. Running it.
Welcome back, Fortnite fans, to the PlayVS College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. Miniminer and Somebody's Gun right here, breaking down the action for you, of course. What a game one. Let's just kick things off with that gun. What an incredible game. We saw a hype team get a 10 elimination victory.
Yeah, and it was perfectly executed. I mean, that's almost textbook how you want to take and play height in this trio meta. You had to front side a zone. I believe they had chili chug splashes, so they just crank up, outcrank everyone, and then hold it from there. Not really many contests, but we have to remember it wasn't simply just sitting up on high ground. They dropped down, closed that game layer by layer, cleaning it out, forced the teams to fight down below, and then were the victors when all was said and done.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely textbook stuff from that team. Beggs, of course, Mars and Seven. We saw them absolutely popping off. They took high ground at the perfect moment. And what a way to kick off their first game. Surely that's going to give them a massive boost of confidence going into game number 2, because we've got 6 games today. Remember, it's not just 1, it's not just 2. It is 6 games of Fortnite action. So it's not set in stone yet. This is not game over. This is not all said and done. This is the first game, and I'm sure that'll be giving them a massive boost of confidence going into game number 2.
Oh, yeah. And this trio knows what to do. They've won PlayVS tournaments before, so they're not new to being in first place. I doubt they fall under the pressure. This is where they want to be. They put themselves in the driver's seat for the rest of this tournament moving forward. And we talked about, you wanted to see the 25 elimination game. Didn't happen game 1. All right, that's understandable. You got to get the nerves out, shake it out, get loose. Game 2, don't worry, 20 bombs coming.
The 20 bomb, it's going to happen, I believe. I'm calling one of these trios right now, okay? If you're watching, please do give us a 20 bomb. But no, make sure you play properly, don't just listen to me because I know nothing. But please do, it's been incredible. It's been an incredible day so far. And it's only game 1. We've seen a 10 elimination victory royale all the way up on high ground. It was almost high ground versus low ground right there at the end as well. We got to talk about Dylan and Derpy, though, of course, clutching out on low ground, getting eliminations. Arrow, their teammate, of course, as well, clutching up, getting so many of those later stage of the game eliminations. You can get teams that are dropping down without the materials and really capitalize on low ground. That's one of the main benefits, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. And we've seen the low ground really continue to be developed. It's not perfect, nor is it any piece of this perfect, but we're seeing teams on the low ground play so much better than we used to.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we're going to be seeing where these teams place on the leaderboards, of course, as well, as we get a little update. The first game has been completed. Who comes out on top? Of course, it's Seven, Beggs, and Mars. Looking at their points tally right there, 77 points after game number 1. 10 eliminations for them. What a start.
It's pretty much exactly how it played out on the leaderboard. The only big difference, we see Edgefor, Daniel, and Skies in 7th place with the 11th place. Must have gotten a ton of eliminations there to have a really solid game. But after game 1, this is exactly what you would have expected after that performance. And, now it's time to lock in. Let's see how it goes the rest of the tournament. You set the tone in game 1, and we got a lot more work still to be done.
Yeah, we really do. We've got plenty of big names that are going head-to-head, of course, in the final 5 games, of which that's going to be a lot of Fortnite action. I'm personally very, very excited because we have a little set. We have a scene now to set. Are our first-place team going to be able to hold on to that? Or will our second, third, fourth-place teams maybe creep their way up? Will it be consistency coming out on top today? Or will it be those big, high elimination victory royales? 1 or 2 of those for one of these teams could spell an absolutely incredible day for them. So, I'm excited to see which strategy will come out on top today, and that is really what we're going to be focusing on when we see that leaderboard. Which teams are going to be moving up in the ranks and which ones might be starting to fall a little bit.
All right, and now we're going to play a game that I like to call Guess the Zone. I want you to pick. We'll go as simple as northwest, northeast, southwest, southeast. If you had to pick a quadrant, which one do you expect this zone to finish in? And you guys in chat can play along as well.
Do it. For me, I'm expecting, it's game number 2. I'm going to say a nice southeast zone, a very catty corner, mountainous zone. I like those, even though they're not the most exciting, to play in, because you have to traverse over so many hills and it's really annoying. But to watch, it's incredible. What a place to go. What about you, Gun? Where do you think it's going to go?
All right, I think I probably should add one more, maybe like a central, like a dead center. Yeah. That's not my pick either, but I think we're going to go towards Believer Beach, somewhere between Believer and Coral. Maybe see some water action going on. I feel like this season, more than any other season, we've seen the zone start to pull up towards that corner of the map. And a lot of players not really a fan of that. So hopefully you've had some experience playing in the water before. If not, hey, never a bad time to learn.
Never a bad time to learn. Maybe get your goggles, maybe your armbands if you need them, your trunks, get them ready because somebody's gun has predicted a water endgame for you. So make sure that you're getting your lessons in. It's probably a bit late now, but you can do it. Yes, it's going to be very exciting, of course, to see what goes on in game number 2. Of course, we're going to be hopping right into that as soon as all of the players are loading up into the battle bus. I believe everyone is loading up right now. I think they're almost there. I think they're in the battle bus right now. I think they've got their outfits on. I think they're ready to go. And I'm excited to see what game number 2 is going to offer us because, I mean, we saw an incredible game number 1 so far. It's going to be interesting to see where these players are landing, how these strategies could develop, and which one of these teams will ultimately come out on top. Will it be the sort of catty corner zones that I predicted, or will it, of course, be the Believer Beach area, or maybe even the new pyramid? I don't know if you've seen it, somebody's gone. There's a new pyramid in the center of the map, which looks absolutely fantastic. Maybe we get an end zone there.
I have seen the pyramid. I haven't seen any zones end there. So I'll be interested to see how the players decide to play that when the zone does pull that way.
Absolutely. We're hopping right into game number 2 right now. It's going to be very, very exciting because we are go. It is time to go. It's going to be exciting. Who comes out on top? Who is going to be the team that is going to dominate? Will our first place team, Dylan, Arrow, and Durfee, continue their domination? It looks as though they're landing at the Dirty Docks area. Such a great POI, so much loot there as well. And of course, it's almost been buffed, Gun, in the Season 8 update with the sort of corrupted area just to the south of it.
Yeah, this used to be my go-to spot last season. I don't know why. I guess I haven't played as much this season, but Dirty has always been my home. I love Dirty Docks. It's such a great place to play, and typically you walk out of here with max materials, and not only that, but you have so much vision while landing in here. It's a pretty consistent place to get llamas at, based on being able to see a wide area while you're landing into Dirty.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You couldn't agree more, to be honest, because there's so many open areas you can see as you're gliding in. It's such a great opportunity to try and find one of those llamas. We saw how important that was in game number 1. The team that ended up getting the llama, of course, did clutch out the victory royale all the way up on height. For Rowan Co right now, they're in the IO base. This seems to be very, very contested, this area. Of course, there is so many teams that are rotating through here, so winning the soft spawn fight could be crucial, and Rogue gets off to a great start here, taking out that young player right there. It's Arrows on the receiving end of some shots from Rono, and no, he's going to go for the reload right there. I like the slow play from this team. It looks as though he is going to be able to just loot up here and enjoy the fruits of his elimination, which is great. First elimination for them, and this is a big battle for them because in this area there's not too much loot for 2 teams to fight, but there definitely is a lot of sort of positioning benefits that come with winning off spawn here. If you can win off spawn, you can have this sort of central area to yourselves and really enjoy the central area of the zone, which could play in your favor later on. As you see Flute getting absolutely lit up from player right there. Was a great few tags on him, and Flute does eventually go down. It was Arrow's teammate right there. Now he's left as a solo. This is going to be an awkward one for him because although there is the launch pad nearby, he might be struggling to make his way out of here and escape with only 15 HP. That's 1 tag with any sort of weapon. It's going to be tough for him to survive this, and he's not going to. Arrows gets taken out. Row whips out the take the L, and what an off-spawn win for them.
He goes down early, and they'll be able to grab their teammate's card, get the reboot, bring them back. Now we're tuning over to north of Stealthy, seeing this fight that's taken place. Aussie 4 on top. Hattie and Oracle's also looking for some shots. They're closing in on a solo. This will be quick work. They've already done all the hard effort, taking down 2 players. It's pretty easy to jump on a solo as a trio. Respect that for cleaning it up. And now they get to loot their Stealthy stronghold and hopefully get some fish. It's been a big piece. I've always loved fishing, especially in the metas where you're able to get mobility out of fishing. Now, we don't have the shadow floppers anymore out of the fishing holes, but you still can get spicy fish. Or even if you're not getting fish, you can pull some pretty awesome weapons out of holes.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And Stealthy Stronghold does have so many of those fishing holes able and ready and waiting to be fished. Of course, so many areas to pick up some fishing rods, maybe some harpoons as well. I know a lot of teams will be utilizing those harpoons a little bit later on, and it'll be interesting to see which teams do go for the more fishing strategy. Maybe they enjoy some fish for their food, or maybe some teams prefer to go for the more traditional mini shields and some chug splashes opportunities that we see 88 the 88 team, actually the 88 trio going for right here. Looks like they picked themselves up a llama as well. We spoke about how important they can be going into the end game. 5 chili chug splashes for this trio, which could be absolutely vital for them in mounting a really good game here, really attack on the top of the leaderboard, because I don't think they had too good of a game in that starting game number 1, so they do want to try and maybe get a few more points here. And I like what they're doing here, Gun. This is a new thing for this season, I believe. You can actually stand on top of vehicles now, making 2-person vehicles an option in trios.
Yeah, I've seen it done with like the 18-wheeler, the semi-tractor trailer trucks as well, but now players are figuring this out. It may have been a thing this entire time, and just nobody knew that this actually worked, but it's always interesting to see. Players always just pushing the meta a little bit more, you know, figuring out that just that one little thing that helps a little bit more. So interesting to see that strategy, and, you know, that is more and more widely used as the season has gone on.
Yeah, that's great to see, especially when the main game mode is, of course, trios at the moment. You know, who knows what the future of the competitive scene could look like, but at the moment, it is trios, and a lot of these teams will be, you know, well-versed in knowing how to rotate as a trio. Felix and co, of course, opting for the more traditional IO-based car on top of those Chonkers tires as well. A fantastic option to rotate, particularly through the sort of mountainous terrain. You know, we see the Lazy Lake area, we see the hills just to the sort of western side of Lazy Lake. Such a really mountainous area, and having those Chonkers tires on your vehicle, especially when it's one of those IO cars, it definitely gives you that flexibility to sort of traverse wherever you want. You know, you're not restricted by your vehicle that you're in, and I think it is definitely a benefit for this team, as they're going to be rotating towards the northern side anyway. It looks as though Lazy is just inside of the zone, but they're going to have to try and rotate, and as you mentioned earlier, rotating early for these teams, especially in this type of game, is absolutely vital.
And Felix is normally one that lands just to the north of this area, at least when he's playing professional events. He typically takes a split to the north. I'm sure he's loving having Lazy Lake all to himself. You know, sometimes you gotta fight for just that little bit of loot, but having one of the best POIs all to yourself, it's gotta be a huge load off your shoulder to allow you a good start off spawn and really just not have to worry. Maybe he's going to change later on today, but we'll see. And now we're checking out a couple of other players rotating around. These guys looked into Stealthy, saw some players, thought about it, decided, nah, we're on the way out. We'll do something else, and they're going to go over to the Flopper Island here, hope for some additional loot. Man, Mini, do you ever land at the top side? Like, you ever go Flopper Island?
Now, it's actually funny you say that, because this is actually one of my favorite solo drops on the map. We are playing trios today. We've talked about solos before, but this actually is, at least it was, one of my favorite solo drops on the map. So many opportunities to get some great loot. A very, very unconvincing little island at the top of the map that nobody would ever take any notice of, but I believe there are 4 chest spawns there total, and there is, you know, which is not too bad for that sort of, you know, that sort of small area, but as you mentioned earlier, there are so many fishing spots. There is unbelievable amounts that you could fill an entire ocean with the fish that you can fish out of that little area. It's unbelievable. You can also fish, of course, fantastic weapons. You can pick up a purple or a legendary gold pump. Of course, you can pick up that the assault rifles as well. You can pick up so much loot from the fishing that it makes it a very, very good POI or a little spot to land at. And personally, I'm a big fan. I don't know about you though, Gun. Do you like that area?
Yeah, I've landed there. Like we mentioned earlier, I love the fishing. And I think it's a great addition. As a solo, you know, it's an awesome spot. As a trio, you really have to work it into a split. So maybe something to do with Spire, Stealthy. I don't exactly know how you play that with a split. Nonetheless, let's focus up, figure out what's going on with Edge 4. He is playing that position we were just talking about. This is an absolutely dominant. This is the Spire of old, where you get this super high position where you can't get shot out and just have vision on basically the entire map here, Minor.
What a fantastic position for Edge to find himself in here. And I really like the way that these teams are really utilizing the updates into Season 8 and the map changes really to their advantage. And this is an absolute prime example of that. As we see Edge all the way on the top of the pyramid. And as you mentioned, he has so much vision across. I mean, he can see as far as the end of Pleasant Park. You can see towards the Corny Crops area. He'll be peeping into Lazy Lake in that corner as well. Like, it's an unbelievable position. We spoke about how important Storm Surge is earlier on. So for this team, getting these tags, if they can really be proactive and really make it work for them, it's going to be so vital. You can see Edge doing that really, really effectively. And I think it's a benefit to them as well, as it looks as though there is a lot of players going to be rotating in from that sort of southwest side. So players will be sort of converging around this area. This is a natural rotation for so many of the teams on the south side of the map. So an absolutely perfect position for Edge and co. And it looks as though his teammates are a little bit further down, but I think that's okay. You know, Edge is all the way up on top. He's saying to his teammates, okay, I'm all the way up here. I can see for miles. I can see everything. So if there is a team that could be pushing you, then I'll let you know. And I think that's really, really great. A really great showcase of their chemistry.
And this is reminiscent of what we saw from Nut, Chucky, and I believe it was Nosh who landed there. I may be wrong with the trio who landed Spire the previous season. And they would just sit up there. When zones pulled that way, they would sit up there and farm surge tags on everyone. And more often than not, they were getting really good positions in the next zone. So not only were they getting surge damage, because they were forcing players away from their position with the tags that they were putting on them, no one wanted to be near them, and they could just rotate freely into the next zone, even if it didn't pull towards them. We see all these teams near Boney, but if we go back and see what's going on at the pyramid, there wasn't many trios based up near or even at the pyramid, which gives you so much flexibility.
Yeah, it really does. It gives you that flexibility on the rotate, as you mentioned. Of course, getting those Storm Surge tags is a great position for that as well. And it can also give you a great vision of the whole map. You know, you can see, okay, that team has rotated over there. We have a team to the left that have rotated as well. So, you know, you can really make those decisions a lot more confidently when you can have that vision. We spoke about it earlier, how important gathering information is when you are in a battle royale. Just like Fortnite, it is such an information-dependent game. You know, you really want to be knowing where everyone is and spending your time wisely. As Shays looks through his cone right here, and he looks as though he does have that mythic burst assault rifle as well. A really, really great weapon, and there's only one of them on the map gun, so I'm a big fan of this weapon. I'm not sure if you've used it too much or you've seen too much from it, but man, it can deal some good damage.
Yeah, I mean, both new weapons, well, I guess necessarily the Mythic Burst isn't a new weapon, but the Mythic Burst and that auto sniper rifle, I feel like a lot of people didn't use right away, but using that sniper really came into power after a lot of players realized how much damage you could quickly put on at a distance. And now we're checking out Gage, looking for some shots on a player, going for a heal. Nice little triple spray there. It's good teamwork. Not going to be able to get the elimination, but you get some damage done. You're going to go again, reload, and now we're checking out another player with a mythic sideways minigun.
From one mythic to the next, we're seeing a brand new mythic introduced into Season 8. He might lose it, though, if he's not careful, as Isolate is on the back foot right now, getting some big damage shots off from the opposing players, so he has to try and heal himself up, as Kirk now has to try and get together with his teammates. They are a little bit split, getting some fire from lots of different angles as well. But Kirk manages to get himself back involved. Not too sure where Smiggy is, potentially on another layer. But yeah, he's going to want to try to use that mythic sideways minigun to his advantage. Such a great weapon to use, and I think particularly because it uses those light ammo sort of ammo types as well. You know, people don't often utilize those enough, in my opinion, inside of this. And look at that damage output that it can produce. A lot of his trio right now, both of his trio members will be able to drop him that light ammo, and he's using it to perfection. That's Otarev right there, going down to that mythic minigun, and he wants more. Isolate is not satisfied with one. He wants so many. He's picked up an elimination already. A fantastic one of that as well. And if you can try and close out these other two, they're going to put themselves in a really good position, needing that Storm Surge as well. They identify how important that will be. A great tag with a 100 with a blue thumb. A great finish as well with that mythic minigun. There's pressure coming in from all angles, and for Clayton, there is no way out. There was absolutely no chance for him right there, as Isolate and his trio shut him down.
Once you get the first elimination, it's just like a snowball rolling down a hill. You already know you have the advantage. You're just pushing more and more and moving faster and faster as you get down this hill. Unfortunate there for the trio getting taken out, but able to show off that mythic minigun for us, and nice work. Now tune back in to the team. Never mind, we're going over, seeing some more action. Just in case you guys thought we were chilling, we're jumping into another fight. Looks like Flight and Co have had a knock on a player. They need to be careful. A third party is coming through this fight, and Hake gets knocked here. That's going to be unfortunate. He needs to be careful. They don't have much space between him. Plenty of builds, though, if he can build out. Flight needs to go for the res, and Nermacy just trying to keep these guys busy as Hake getting picked back up.
Yeah, Hake getting picked back up right there as we see the result of trying to be a little bit too aggressive at this stage of the game. You know, a lot of these teams will be needing that Storm Surge, as we see now 70 players left remaining, so they won't have to worry about it at the moment, but these teams are looking to preemptively get their Storm Surge tags, so any opportunity that any of these other trios will get to get some tags, they will take it. And when you're seeing these sort of mid-game fights brewing in the central area of the zone, it's almost impossible to come out of there unscathed. That's why they've just about managed to get Hake back up right there. He does manage to utilize the heals right there as well. As it's Coon right here going with the launch pad. Nice little early launch pad, allowing to get a really good zone and potentially not quite in the area that we were expecting, but we are seeing some swimming action, which is great. And it looks as though the zone is sort of pulled towards the more central area of the map, which means we were both wrong, Gun. But it's a good position, and I'm sure Coot and Co will be happy with this position they're in right now as well, with 3 eliminations.
Yeah, this is about as far as they could have gotten into this zone without really having to fight for some better position. Just taking what you can get sometimes is the best play. Not having to spend too many materials or heals to get a better position is worth it. And we see there's multiple launch pads here on Cut, so he's going to be able to make a rotate for free, at least do it in the air without any materials. And now they're just going to sit here and look south, try and find some tags or potential eliminations on players rotating through the air.
Yeah, and that's a really great benefit of rotating in early. We saw this team utilizing that pad a little bit earlier on, which I'm sure a lot of teams would opt to just run on foot. But what this allows them to do, it allows them to get into the zone early, but also in a more like advanced position into the zone. As we see Coot and his trio, we can see them sort of in the middle of every single trio on the bottom right, the mini map in the bottom right corner. And there's so many other teams that are sort of congested in the area that they're sort of focusing right now, which allows them to get a head start on the next rotate. As it so happens, they are in the next zone. They're in that all-important fourth zone. They're not quite on the edge though, so they might want to rotate a little bit potentially, but it looks as though Danielle having to defend against so many shots right now, and this is the receiving end of what we've seen from the team that were a little bit further in. This is the difficulty when you are on this edge of zone, particularly when there's so many teams looking at you, and Danielle feels the full force of that as they go down to crush in the feed. So many teams looking for eliminations here, so many teams looking for some Storm Surge as well, as Edge now has to clutch up as a solo. Can he do it?
And now Verminous, Crush, and Co. below need to be careful, because just because they got the eliminations, everyone around them spraying at them, they don't know that this team is fully knocked. Edge is still up, so therefore players know, okay, the last knock was not fully finished. There's a solo somewhere in here. And you will keep shooting at this thinking that I'm going to eventually find this solo. You need to be careful, otherwise you wound up spending way too many materials. We hear another shield crack going on. So there's some fights happening, or at least shots taking place somewhere nearby. Now we're taking a peek. Here is Knack, Taco, and Sigma playing this hill in a really good position for this zone, but based on where the edge of Storm is, I highly doubt they pull forth. Good position, though, for some surge tags and just understanding what's going on around this lobby. Always a pleasure and a leisure to be in that position rather than trying to fight for something in mid to low ground.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And even if they are not in the fourth zone, which I think they might have just pulled it, you know, even if they're not in there, though, they are able to just sort of stay up there and just farm the Storm Surge tags of the teams that are rotating, as we see Felix and Co doing right now, just managing to get a few shots off on these teams that are rotating, and particularly this team that have decided to box up next to them. We saw how much assault rifle ammo they managed to collect at Lazy Lake. We saw them have Lazy Lake uncontested as well, but now they're having to defend against some shots from all different types of angles, and this is the worrying thing for this team. If you are in the center, you are being looked at by plenty of different players, you do run the risk of potentially getting sprayed from all angles. And especially if there's 1, 2, maybe 3 teams looking at you, it can spell disaster for your team if you're not careful. You're not blocking off your back. You're not ensuring that you have a clear look at the team that you are focusing. And it looks as though there is a knock right down inside of those builds, as Call Me AK looks to be on his own as well on that sort of right side of the map. And yeah, it looks as though Nak and Co are inside of the zone. So if they pull fifth here, this could be absolutely vital, and it doesn't look as though they do.
Yeah, it's close, but not close enough for them to be able to hold that high ground position. It's going to drop down the hill, so you need to readjust, rethink where you're at. Now we see our previous game winners. Already got 2 eliminations on the board, looking pretty good. Well more AR ammo than they had the previous game, so a much better position as far as that goes, but we'll see if they look to play high ground once again. I know they have the flexibility to play multiple different layers, but sometimes it's go big or go home with these kinds of trios that know they're that good, but oh no, watch out! No, down goes Bags, he gets sprayed out from the bottom, and they're actually, looks like they're gonna be able to get this back.
Just about. That was close. That was very, very close. That was almost too close for comfort for this team. Of course, when you are leading the pack, you really can't be affording to make any of those sort of mistakes. So 7 attempts to hold off those other players. Managed to get a knock there as well. It's Glitch there going down in the feed. Merg now nearly going down as well, potentially. So the shots from Mars. Now they're on the receiving end. And no, he goes for the pickaxe. And Mars makes a statement of intent, clutching up right there and managing to get the pickaxe onto the final elimination. Wow.
Oh my, how the tides turned really quickly. While Mars was picking up Bags, 7 just said, hold on. You are not pushing my teammates. I'm going to put the team on my back, though. And then just take out 2 of those players. Then 7 gets the res. He turns around and he's like, hey, you ain't hurt my teammate either. You guys are paying for this. Let him know with the pickaxe at the end. And hey, what a great way to start this end game, because that's exactly what you need in order to be successful. These 4th and 5th zone refreshes are huge to having great games.
Yeah, that's so true. We saw them having so much surge tags right there, so they will be okay. But as you mentioned, it is so much about that refresh. The material refresh that will have been generated from that is absolutely vital for this team. They're going to be so happy with that. Being able to pick up eliminations with the trusty sword as well, with the pickaxe we saw right there at the end. I'm sure they'll be happy about that going into this game. And I think that puts them up to 5 eliminations as well, which is already half of the eliminations that they had in the last game, which is looking really, really good for them. Another team that's looking really good at Scarv, Mystic, and Felix. These guys have been really, really consistent so far in this game. They haven't really looked for too much. They haven't really got too many eliminations, but they really have been smart in the way that they've gone about things, and they are going to recycle a launch pad right in the back of zone right there, and that could be a risk that could pay off, but of course, you do lose a lot of white HP there as they do make their way into zone. Hake right here, though, trying to get some of this refresh, utilizing this harpoon as well. We talked about it so much before, how useful that device can be, and a really great item to take into the end game. And he does, of course, have that legendary pump shotgun. Such a power weapon gun.
Now just going to rotate through. He's getting in the box. Big shots come through, but he goes down. He trades himself for an elimination. Now it's up to his teammates Nermacy and Flight to lead this endgame charge as they're moving through. They're on the backside of zone. Have to be careful they don't get forced out. Flight does go down. It's all up to Nermacy. He has plenty of heals if he wants to play the heal game, but right now it's all about staying alive. We're in the top 17. We're not even seeing significant placement points come through yet. You have to stay alive for multiple more zones if you want to secure a lot of games. And now we're tuning in to what's going up on the high ground. It looks like 7 Bags take a peek with that launch pad, see what's up on high ground, but Cut and Camarino say, no way, this is not your height game, this is ours. We're going to close this out. And Nermacy does go down, so that trio falls there. We see Knock goes down there to isolate, and Bags is also getting knocked to Scav. So 2 of our top trios, but no, watch out, Isolate's going for high ground. Cut's looking like he's going to be able to hold it. He does PG for high ground, is able to knock down Row, and now look at this. Once again, facilitated and comfortable on high ground, looking for plays, but no, they decide to give it up. Too much was spent on that high ground hold.
Yeah, that's the danger, especially when you're a duo. Of course, you don't have that extra inventory slot, that extra teammate to hold those extra materials. And no, it looks as though our first place team right here, they're going to have to rely on Mars to clutch up. We know he's more than capable, but it is a trio versus a solo in a lot of these fights that he's going to get into right now. So it's not going to be an easy task for him, but I'm sure he is up to it. We see Kirk and Co all the way up on high ground right now. We have a new high ground team as Scarv is in a little bit of engagement as well. Felix going down in the feed as well. Mars with 16 bills. Can he navigate his way through this low ground section of the end game here? He doesn't really have too many bills. He doesn't have too much in the name of heals either, so he can't go for a medkit play. He does just have to play shotgun out, back of zone, try and pick up some eliminations if he can, but clutching out these placements is what's going to be absolutely vital for him.
And the Harpoon's a really big advantage to have just to get through builds here in this end game. Instead of having to pickaxe them, you can break them up ahead of you. But look, it is the mythic minigun we see once again here on Isolate, spraying down. He has almost max ammo and just going to continue to pressure. It's Isaac and Ghost down below. They looked for some shots back and then quickly closed. They're like, ah, no, this is not it. They're dropping down. They don't even want to be second height anymore. You hear the minigun. That deters you from playing any high ground layer. They're going to probably look to claim ultimate low at some point unless they can make a play onto high ground. Continuing to play these mid ground layers. They find a player. Box. He is gone. He's bopped. He's out of this lobby. They find another one. That's a clean. And that's cut. We're cleaning up this lobby, taking down this mid ground and continuing the pressure from up above. This is a dangerous position, but they seem to be playing it perfectly.
Yeah, they really do, and I think that's what Isaac and his trio are so good at getting players into their box and really capitalizing on the elimination, getting that loot as well, as we just saw Mars right there going down to Scrappy, unfortunately for him. Ghost and his team, Isaac and Riggs having to drop down to ulti-low, gets that refresh as well, gets that elimination. Now we see three teams remaining, 8 players remain. We know that there's duos on height, we know that it's going to be a difficult situation for anyone down below to hold off the pressure from that mythic minigun as the shots come out, the low ground comes out, and now they're going to have to get into a little engagement. A full one pump from Ghost with that legendary pump shotgun, 203 damage. No thank you from Hitbuller, who does drop down. A great shot from Ghost. It's not going to be enough though. It's Isolate, Sneaky Kirk, and Smiggy who clutched out the top #1 victory royale in game number 2.
What a match there. I mean, being able to hold that as a duo is really impressive. I honestly did not expect that. We saw so much volatility, and Isaac and co were able to claim that ultimate low, but really it was that mid-ground team dropping down, choosing to go below as opposed to up, which allowed Isolating Co to win that match. Sometimes, hey, it's up to what other players in the lobby do, and all you can control is the shots that you hit, like that sweet 200 pump.
Oh, that was so sweet. And we're going to take a look back at some of the finest moments from that game number 2. I mean, what a game it was. We saw some crazy moments. We saw another high ground team take the dub, take the victory royale. And they did it in style. I think as a duo as well, it was so difficult for them to hold that. But I think definitely that mythic minigun, as we saw it put to use earlier on, it came in clutch.
So clutch, and just being able to put that constant pressure down without having to reload. It does overheat, but just continuing that fire through, and oh, Mars, don't do it to him. Oh man, these guys, the plays are nice. You know, for some older players in the Fortnite scene, these guys are kind of nuts.
They're kind of nuts. I mean, I always like to see a pickaxe play, and that was unbelievably done from him right there. And there it is again. Just, I mean, it's an incredible shot from Ghost. And I mean, especially when it's at that sort of latter stage of the game, if you can clutch up with a really high damage pump shot like that, it can mean the difference between places on the leaderboard. And as you mentioned earlier, hundreds and maybe even thousands of dollars, which of course are on the line today. We've got an incredible prizing format. We've got an incredible prize pool, of course, as well. And I'm excited to see what game number 2 means for the leaderboards. But before we do get into that, we've got to take a short little break, so don't go anywhere.
Set me free or give me death, yeah. Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death.
Man, I'm on my way, yeah. Y'all can find out, you on timeout. You been dealing with the devil, where you sign at? Yeah, oh Lord, you getting financed. Me, I'm talking ownership, baby, that's where my mind at. Try that, yeah, me, I threw my money down. And you know that it's good, we can skip the run around. And I don't need no yes, man, I'm all the way down. Yo, and I am not for sale, that's in case you couldn't tell, but y'all know better now.
You can set me free or give me death, yeah.
Living good, I've been blessed, yeah. Shout out all my enemies, all the best. You can set me free or give me death, man, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way. Real life better than the internet. Keep what you been selling, I ain't into that. We are doing business, this is simple math. I invest, you know I get it back, you believe that? Yeah. They asking what the fame like, tell them hang tight. Let me holler when the pay right. Put that on my damn life, you know I'm the man, right? Show them what the plan like, but y'all look slow, don't understand, right? Yeah. So tell me how you feel, baby. Cause I've been working all the way up to a meal, baby. Yeah. Man of the year, how I feel lately. You know the deal, baby. You know the drill, yeah, I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. Man, I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. I'm on my way, yeah. And I can do this all day, man, I'm on my way. Said I'm on my way.
You can set me free or give me death, yeah.
And we are back for the PlayVS College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. Miniminer and Somebody's Gun breaking down the action for you here. We just had to take a little break there, you know, a little bit of slurp juice for us and maybe even a chug jug because of game 2 was a lot of action. That was almost too much to handle.
Oh, I needed to walk away for a second and stand up. That was so hype. I mean, we're seeing Rix and Ghost play so well along with Isaac. I mean, we're highlighting him because he was able to win on Monday, but shout out Rix and Ghost. You guys performed extremely well. And oh, that sweet 200 pump. I'm going to relive that.
Oh, I will too, and I'm sure he will. You know, I'm sure there'll be in plenty of montages in the future. That'll be there. I mean, I'm sure it will. And we got to talk about that the pickaxe play as well from one of the other players. Unbelievable, wasn't it? It was a great pickaxe play, and it was Mars, I think, wasn't it? Was it Mars that clutched up with that? It was a pickaxe in this event on this stage. What an incredible moment.
I mean, more so like the turning of the tides. You had a player knocked, and you had no business going and eliminating a full trio. Like, absolutely no business doing that. You're lucky if you can just get the res off, much less turn that around, eliminate the entire trio, and finish it with a little swing.
Yeah, it's got to be done, you know, just finish it off, enjoy that, you know, he's done so much damage to him already. It was just a nice little pickaxe just to finish it off and really show a statement of intent as to why they were our top trio going into a game number 2, and it'll be interesting to see whether they will be remaining as our top trio as the tournament progresses. As we talked about it before, how important it will be as consistency for these trios. How consistent can you be across the course of 6 games? We've already seen a third of the games so far. We still have plenty of action to come, and you talked about it earlier, Gun, the sort of switch of strategies. How do you think these teams now, after 2 games, how do you think they're going to manage the way that they've played so far and how they're going to play in the future?
So I think if you're making first moving zone and you're consistently doing that, your problem's more in execution than planning, because once you're making those end games, it's more understanding what's going on around you rather than your total strategy and plan. Yes, you should have a plan for those moving zones, but ultimately it comes down to execution. And so sometimes you just got to switch it up, talk to your teammates. Hey, maybe someone's not doing what they should be, or you're not doing what you should be. You got to step it up, own it. That is what it is. You can't change what's going on, and just make a little change, adjust. Maybe the comms need to be a little improved sometimes. that's it. I don't know. I mean, hey, Miner, do I need to improve my comms right now?
Your comments have been absolutely splendid. You know, spot on. Every single comment has been unbelievable. You haven't missed a beat. And I'll tell you what, these players haven't missed a beat either. We've seen trios. You mentioned it right there. Bizik, Ghost, and Rix. The way that they managed the mid ground there, where that right there was absolutely unbelievable. You know, they went from high ground to low ground, dipped down, got some eliminations as well. I'm excited to see what game number 3 brings us. And I think I'm getting word that we are ready to rock on with game number 3. It's going to be a great one. And we're at the halfway point nearly. Again, it's going to be exciting to see who comes out on top here.
Oh, it will be. And now taking a peek, looks like Stealthy is having some action go on. Once again, we're tuning in. Isolate, looks like Oracles is going to be our first player knocked, not fully eliminated. There's a chance he comes back. But Isolate and Co. landing at Holly, able to do this nice big split. I mean, having this much real estate on the map is a huge leisure. And honestly, sometimes like that might put you on like I don't know what the proper word for it is. I'm trying to think of it, but I'm at a loss of words. Sometimes you just get comfortable, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And you forget that, oh, there's a lot of other teams in the lobby and someone might land on us. Speaking of getting landed on, here is this fight going on at Stealthy Miner.
Yeah, the Stealthy Stronghold fight, such an interesting place to fight at, because Stealthy by name and Stealthy by nature, there's so many teams that can sort of sneak their way around here, so many trees, so many buildings that players can sneak in and around and hide their way in. And I think this is what we're going to be seeing right here. We're seeing Grizz and Boo and his trio. It looks as though it's only a duo right now, though, as Finicky does seem to have gone down. Potentially a little bit of an escape play for this team. They do get a knock, though. That's Aussie 4 right there, going down. Fantastically connected shots from this duo, and now it's a duo versus duo. Are they going to back off? I think there's another team in here, actually. Could there be? I think there could be. There could be another team. There's 3 different teams fighting it out inside of Stealthy Stronghold. It looks as though that is the case, and I think it's a solo and a duo and a trio all involved in Stealthy. I don't think this place is big enough for 3.
Well, I know One Shot and Co. land at the outskirts. They go to that crash site, and looks like Call goes down really quickly. So unfortunate for these guys. They came in thinking, okay, let's just third party this, pick up a couple eliminations. Then you wind up losing your teammate and now need to figure out something else. Now, what is going to be the plan here is One Shot and Tabchi have to try and get their teammate back up, but we're tuning into the middle of the map as Danielle, Edgefor, and Skies are in a fight. We're in a bush, and Danielle gets knocked. Oh, okay, never mind. I was about to say he gets knocked, but his teammates are right there to help him out.
Yeah, really, really well done from their teammates right there. Of course, clutching up, making sure to offer some great support to Danielle, but they were able to clutch up with some good shots of their own as well. Some really, really good connections with that green pump. 92 body shot damage, of course, with that weapon. And maybe now these guys will be taking a little bit of a higher standpoint, as we saw a team do earlier. I think it was actually Edge who was all the way up on top. And I think this is what it was, wasn't it? Yeah, because it was Edge who decided to go all the way up top. So I think this is going to be an interesting way for them to keep this position again, because as we see on the zone, the pyramid is right on the edge, and I think that's such a great benefit for this POI, because although there's not too many materials, you get that positional advantage.
I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Edge just dropped all of his mats.
He did, actually.
I don't know what's going on.
He's given up. I think he does. I think he's thinking, okay, I'm just going to go out and have a fish. Or, I think he might be, you know what he might be doing? He might be giving his materials to the team just in there, because his teammates just in there, just so they can battle if there is a team pushing over. And I think the way that he manages to get this elevation is to rotate to this sort of smaller IO guard base, utilize one of the IO cars, and then get some of the tires, the Chonkers tires that we spoke about earlier, from the garage that is sort of lurking nearby. Obviously, there's so much brick that you can see right here. Interesting strategy to drop literally all of your materials. Might be worth having, you know, at least a few left, but, you know, these guys are playing at this level, and we are not. So I presume that they know what they're doing, and they know, and they've done it to perfection so far. I mean, the positioning has been perfect from them, as we're seeing a little bit of a battle going on at Boney Burbs, as Draska right now is trying to connect with some shots. He only has a great pump, though. This is going to be a tough fight for them to take right in the center of the map.
Yeah, and this team down in the building, this is a little difficult of a position to play, because there's so many weird cracks and windows and doors within this, and looks like this team has understood this isn't it. This is not what we want to do. Let's get on out of here. That team is purely based up. They have a lot of that position claimed, and we're going to rotate on out. Couple of fights taken early, and ooh, nice. Love to see that. You getting paid for walking away is getting that launch pad right there.
Absolutely fantastic. You never know what's lurking in all of that corn. Of course, Bony Burbs, a little bit of a sort of overgrown area. Definitely a very popular drop spot in Chapter 2, Season 6. A really, really great place to land. It has so much loot. And of course, it does have the potential for this, for minis on this vending machine as well by this sort of petrol station area. So for Vexy and Co, it looks as though they don't have too many shield heals, as opposed to Ro and his teammates right here. They do have plenty of heals. They're looking for as much Storm Surge as possible. And this is a very, very similar position to the Edge team in the middle of the map on the pyramid. You know, you can sort of box up on top of Bony Burbs because there's a very, very high likelihood that this POI will be inside of the first zone. So you can really do exactly what this team are doing. They're boxing up all the way up on top, utilizing that natural high ground. Very, very difficult for a team to shoot them out, especially without them noticing. And as you mentioned earlier, Gun, they can utilize this as some really great opportunity to get some search.
Yeah, 100%. Great explanation there. And we saw one team come in, decide, all right, let's fight Boney. Now we see Ro's team. They're not going to try and take the fight, but they're going to take the position and look for tags on both trios trying to walk away. Ro and Co in a really good spot, like you mentioned. And unfortunately for Dr. Duke and Co, they have to walk out, be hopeful. And there's some more trios taking shots. Ro and them have to be careful. Now we know there's a team on the crash site over to the west. Likely someone's going to position up on the pyramid. I would have to expect once again in this match.
Yeah, we could be seeing Edge making his way all the way up to the top there, and it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see whether Ro and his team are aware of this. Will they be aware? Because it doesn't seem as though they're blocking off their back or indeed that side right now, and they could get caught out by the positioning advantage of Edge if he does retain that position. Because, to be honest, I don't see why he wouldn't. It's a really, really great position to be in, and it looks as though, no, they're not. They're not deciding to go there. Maybe they had a bit of an issue with the rotation in the previous game, but for now, it doesn't appear as though anyone is at the top of the pyramid. I think they might have identified that so many of the teams have already rotated in that maybe they're just going to focus on a more central position. And I think that they're not going to decide to take that this game, which could be a reason why Edge dropped all his materials. That'll be an interesting question to get answers to potentially later on. Maybe there'll be an interesting strategic decision behind that. But we see Hitsbullet and Co. We saw them getting lit up by the team on Bony Burbs and continuing to do so as well as they are trying to rotate on out, making their way to the Weeping Woods area. I think they're thinking, okay, right, I've had enough about it being in the open here. I've had enough of it. I'm getting shot too much. Let's just dip in and around these trees and try and get some cover here.
Pretty good decision to move on out of here, and if you want to go put yourself in Weeping, it's a pretty good spot to hang out in. And we see now what's going on here with Berkey, Doinks, and Bisky. They're on the edge of Storm up on the northeast side. A little bit different of a position than we've seen from some other trios. Looks like Berkey's just hanging out, and they really don't have anything to do at the moment. Surge is going to be an issue if we're not getting tags, but we've seen that game in, game out. You need to get your surge damage. That's the only thing that really matters.
Yeah, that is what really matters, of course, indeed, as we see a lot of the teams boxing up inside of this area. A more sort of subtle, little less congested area right here for Berkey and Co, but doesn't seem as though Berkey and Co are a little bit too high up on the leaderboards. We do have a little bit of an update for everyone at home right now. What our leaderboard is looking like just going into this end game of game number 3. 7 Begs and Mars do appear to be still on top with 132 points. Really, really great from them. They managed to get a 5th with 6 eliminations in that previous game, which is really, really good from them. A quick little update for us as Isaac, Rix, and Ghost are in 2nd place, as we just saw. So really, really great to get a little insight as to where these teams are positioned going to this end game.
Yeah, it's awesome to know, and that gives us context both as casters and you guys as viewers to see where and who is our top teams headed into this match. This is our 3rd match, so halfway through, we see Taco, Sigma, Nak, one of the better trios, able to perform decently in that last game. Still looking to reach the final zone. Now our 1st place trio walking into what could be a fight. It looks like they're trying to get some shots here. Whether or not they fully commit, Beggs is going to get a knock there. And now Mars is going to base up, look for some shots back. Oh, some big shots coming through. And that's that sniper that we're talking about, the auto snipe, putting big damage on back. 7, letting those guys know how exactly it's done.
Absolutely. We've seen this team be really, really proactive, really efficient in getting their Storm Surge tags, particularly not too afraid to fight either. And when you do have a team like Seven and Co. on the front foot, it is almost very dangerous to try and fight them, as we see Old Man Doinks right here just on the receiving end of some shots, and that was a massive shot right there. It was the 88 trio taking out that other trio on the edge of the zone. It was Low Man over the top, and Aya right now cleaning up that fight. And you mentioned it before, Gun, getting this sort of the refreshes at this sort of time is absolutely vital.
It is definitely, especially when you're getting zone that pulls to you once again. So these guys likely aren't going to continue to get multiple zones based on their positioning. They do get second, but, you know, highly unlikely they pull the rest of them. They'll be able to hang out here for a little bit, not really need to do much, especially after getting those eliminations. And we see that Storm Surge warning starting to pop up, letting everybody know, okay, you're either above by this much or below. Fun fact, if you look at where it says damage threshold, 37 below, that will always be below that blue and purple image. If you're above, the damage will be above that image. So if you're ever wondering, you're watching a player in a different stream that you don't understand, all you have to do is look at the number, and if it's above or below that damage threshold image.
That's absolutely right, and we see a team that is below right now. Panic Station starting to ensue as Twitch Phobic looks as though he's trying to get inside the box. It is the box of Seven and his trio. We've seen how efficient these guys are at fighting and getting eliminations, but Twitch and Co, they are on the front foot. They are looking out for some eliminations. Mars right there going down in the feed as Rocket Man manages to take him out. Polaris there going down as well. It's now a 2v2 situation, and now though, it looks as though they managed to get a full elimination on their original knock. It's Seven going down to Flute as well. That's another team looking over at this fight as well. Mars going down, of course, earlier on, so Seven and his team are now down to a solo. That's Beggs, our first place team. What a crucial moment in the event this is going to be, because Seven is still down, hasn't quite been able to get the full finish. They did manage to get the full elimination on to Mars. But unfortunately for Twitch and his team right here, they do have Polaris. There you go. They managed to pick him up, and a Seven has managed to be picked up as well. So Rocket Man and it's going to be Polaris and Phobic. These guys trying to connect with some shots. The shots come out, the shots exchanged. If they can clutch up an elimination on this team, they probably don't know it, but they could be knocking the kings of our tournament so far off their high horse on top of the leaderboard. And yes, Vex goes down right there, and Seven goes down as well. A huge refresh from Rocket Man, Polaris, and Phobic, but they've got to make their way in, and it's not going to be easy here.
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough rotate. Luckily for them, it's only going to be one trio looking to hold them, and I think they can cut off line of sight by going left here, and it looks like that's exactly how they're going to try and make this rotation. Nice, easy rotate. Could have been much worse if we saw a lot of trios on this southern edge. Everyone's rotated for him, giving him a little bit of an advantage, and now Rocket Man, Polaris, and Phobic able to make that rotate into Storm, or out of Storm, I should say. And now there's a huge opening, Miner. We see our first place team go down early. Very little points, if any, secured in this match. And now it's all coming down to who can take advantage of that.
Yeah, we saw Bizik and his trio, of course, in second place right there, only by 5 points after game number 2. So they'll be thinking, okay, that is an opportunity, that is an open door, but will they be able to walk through it? Will they be able to take advantage of that opportunity? As Taco King right now tries to connect with some shots, doesn't quite get too much damage off. It looks as though they came off the worst out of that little engagement, that little exchange. As Sigma and Knack, of course, a fantastic trio. We see them operating at the highest level so far today. Let's see if they can continue their domination in these engagements. They don't have too many eliminations so far, only one to their name, as Taco King does take a big damage shot from the opposing team. It's Dank and Defying. Looks as though it's a duo. Knack trying to go from a different angle as well. That's the beauty of the trios format, trying to find so many different angles. A really great connected shot, and it looks as though they do not quite get the elimination. It was so close for them, nearly getting the knock on the player on the other side of that wall. Almost impossible for them to hold that wall as Ozzy goes down right there. Now it's all down to Oracles right now. I think he's going to be having to try and get away here, because he's not going to be able to do much as a solo, particularly with not too many heals and not too many mats.
Yeah, these are those engagements that are forced because of the Storm Surge popping up, forcing players to take fights. So you got to be in a good position if you want to avoid those or not be near any others. Oracles has to be really careful here as a solo. These are the positions where when a good trio finds you as a solo, your game's just over. You could be the best player in the world, but if a good trio knows you are by yourself wherever you are, they will eliminate you, or they will force you into a position where you get eliminated. It's as simple as that. So Oracles, good luck, bro. You got a long ways to go.
I think he is going to need that luck, particularly when the Storm Surge does pop up as well for the next zone. It's going to be interesting. It looks like the launch pad comes out a little bit earlier on. Potential for some tags from Oracles right here, but I don't think he's going to be able to with 3 medium bullets. It might be a little bit more of a difficult task for him, but now we're seeing our second place team. They're on the hunt for number 1. They're on the hunt for their first place spot that they want so badly. It's Bizik, it's Rix, and it's Ghost all the way up on this top spot, all the way up on this top area of the crash site. They're trying to look down and try and get as many tags as they can. I do believe that they land at Coral Castle. Bizik's such a big Coral Castle player. We see it in solo so often. He's so good at fighting off spawn at Coral Castle if it is contested. He really is very good at that, and I think he's leading his trio very well.
Yeah, and they're not even going to have to move from that position. They'll be able to sit there, but Gage looks for a shot, trying to get the pressure off of them from up above. It continues as players continue looking for shots. Now multiple trios. They're having to back out, find some space. They do have some space built, but not going to be able to get much of a breath here. Now, you need to be careful making these edits, because every time you do, it weakens the builds and potentially just more shots coming through, and the pressure's not stopping. Those guys down below have not given up, but that winds up getting one of them knocked. Looks like Arrow is going to get hits full of, but Dylan goes down. That's Gage. That's payback. That's for spraying at us earlier. Now Derpy's looking to get some shots back. Gage is hitting some big ones, and down goes Dr. Duke. So it looks like Exceed making sure both trios that were spraying at them are paying for that decision. They're taking down one at least of both of these trios, and now going to walk away victorious with just Derpy remaining.
Yeah, that's absolutely great for them. Derpy on his own for Gage, Exceed, and Shades. These guys will be coming out of that very, very happy. They're now 824 above the damage threshold. They do have 3 eliminations to their name as well. The heals situation for Gage right now, not looking too good, so this rotate has got to be clean. He's got to be able to get in here without getting tagged, because if he does get tagged and one of these teams see that he has no shield, that could be game over. We see Derpy going for the launchpad play in the air, but unfortunately gets taken out mid-flight, and his trio's game is over, as it looks as though they were quite high up, of course, as well. A fantastic team that we saw popping off in game number 2. Really, really solid team, and we saw them doing well in game number 1 as well for Gage. Now he has to try and pop this medkit. I don't think his team have any minis. I mean, if they do, they should be dropping him some immediately, but I don't think they have the facilities to at the moment. So they managed to get in. They are safe for now. Oh no, Shades does have the minis. Okay. I'm interested to know why Shades doesn't drop in the minis there, but I think it could be just to make sure that they get that medkit off as well, and they're able to refarm this building quite nicely.
Gage must have made fun of his gamer tag or something. You know, you can't be doing that to your teammate. If Gage got shot once on that rotate and players saw that he was only down to white HP, that's going to get pressure and that won't stop. Like, you see a player rotating into Storm and you just continue to force the issue when you see that they're that weak. Anyway, let's look at fifth zone. Let's see where we're going. We're going up north. Once again, a favorable zone for Rix, Ghosts, and Bizik. Really good zone. They're not in it yet, but shouldn't have to rotate too far. All these teams on the southern side are going to have to make a nice far rotate. We'll start to see these launch pads come out, and really the only question is, who's the first one? A lot of players wait until we start seeing one team go, and then just follow. Everyone sees that first player in the air and is like, all right, follow that. That way we don't get beamed up, and here we do see the launch pad used by Slimaxis. He's able to make this rotation in, and they're going left side as it appears literally 70% of the lobby is trying to play the same little position here.
Yeah, they are. It's a very, very difficult situation when you're in that sort of more congested side of zone. It looks as though Shades and Co are making a little play for that sort of the corrupted little shard from the mothership. So I think it was Bizik and Co who are on the top of that. So really, really favorable zone for them, as Coot and his team do seem to be on the receiving end of some shots in this sort of mid-ground layer. They are looking for some Storm Surge tags. I'm not too sure if they have too many with only 1 elimination, but looking at their loot, they can definitely do that. They have the facilities to. They have enough ammo. They have that legendary pump shotgun. in particular for Coot right now, so he is in a good situation to get some high damage. We saw it happen earlier from Ghost, a fantastic 203, one pump to the head, a fantastic shot, and maybe Coot can try and replicate something like that in this end game to really get his team that refresh that they so desperately need, as the zone does pull towards the more southern side. Probably a favorable zone for this team, as they don't really want to be rotating over that massive mothership shard. As we see Gage and his team right now fighting all the way up on top of that. This is a high ground battle. This is a battle that I don't think necessarily needs to happen, because these teams have to rotate down anyway. There's surely no way they're going to be able to hold this high.
Yeah, there's no winner in this position when you're just fighting up above, but it looks like the team down below of Knack and Sigma have given this up, so Exceed, Gage, and Shades will be able to hold that. Oh no, wait. Sigma might be looking to sneak them here. Yeah, there's Knack. They do see them, though. So before they can take it, oh, Exceed goes down. A nice little sneak by the duo. Pretend that they're backing down and then continue to go back up. Gage is going to have to spend a lot to make this rotation. He's going to jump onto the players below accidentally in the same box. Ooh. Shots come through. He gets the knock, but that's not going to be enough. He goes down, and Knack is actually going to go down as well. So all the players up on high ground, unfortunately, going to deal some damage to one another, and there was no winner there. High ground is free. It looks like Andy's playing in the storm on the backside. He's looking to make the rotates. Some players are starting to realize this. Greasel has figured out no one is on high ground. He's holding it as a solo.
I think he could be there. It might be a I think his teammate was a little bit further back. So again, we might be seeing another duo height hold potentially from this team all the way up on high ground. I think it's definitely a duo. Could be a trio, but I think it'll be interesting to see who comes out on top in that one. We saw a duo do it before. Can they do it again? Now we're seeing Edge a little bit below the Storm Surge threshold. Not going to have to worry about it anymore, as 30 players do remain. So he's now safe and chilling for that. It's King Belt and Capolotti all the way up on top. Jason with them as well. They're getting some spray from front side of zone as well. This could spell the end of the game for them. And it's Ghost, Isaac, and Co. who are looking for that high ground. They're looking to close out game number 3 in style, to really walk through that open door, the fantastically open door that's there, ready, waiting for them. It's put on a plate for them to take first place if they can do it in style with a good elimination victory royale. That could be a really great stepping stone for them going into the final 3 games, as Capolotti and his team do seem to fall down from high ground. They're not allowed to have it. He goes down. I think it's Rix right there who takes him out, but they're keeping the high ground as a duo.
And it's like Crater trying to take the high ground. Balk has fallen down. Jason's going to have to give that up. He's low HP. Now Balk looking to make a solo play, potentially trying to get back to his teammate if he can. He does find his teammate. They're in the same box. That'll help them for a second. Not much that they can work with, though, as they're moving through these end game zones. We see there's a full trio right below of Mandinka, Archer, and Co. Now putting the pressure on from up above. Camarino, Crater just gonna clean this one up if they're able to. So much ammo. All they have to do is hold down the trigger and spray down below. There's not much else that needs to be done in this game, and that's exactly what they're doing. Everyone is going to be forced to fight. They are so high up here. The only thing that can take them down is fall damage, so if they're careful enough, this game is all theirs.
Yeah, we've seen high ground winning in game number 1 and game number 2 so far, so it's going to be exciting to see if this team can sort of follow suit in that department and maybe clutch out a victory royale. There are still all 3 of them alive, as is many of the other teams here, actually. We see Isaac and his trio all the way down on the low ground section. They're all still alive, healthy, and well as well. 5 eliminations for this trio all the way up on high ground. As you mentioned, so much assault rifle ammo as well, so they can just spray down, as King Balk picking up eliminations right there in the feed, as a solo eventually does get taken out, but it's Isaac, Rix, and Ghost dominating the low ground. Only 1 elimination for their name so far, but this is where they can pop off. This is where they fight so well. On the low ground, as a trio, getting different angles, as Isaac cannot quite find an angle, and it's his teammate Rix nearly goes down, but so does someone else. That was a fantastic drop in from Isaac.
Oh!
Another one! No way! It's Mandinka that goes down. It's Sigma that goes down. Isaac is on an absolute roll here. 3 teams to go. Who's going to come out on top?
And they've walked into some old builds. That'll save them a little bit, but it is a 3v3, our classic high versus low. Camarino's hanging up top, up above. He's trying to play a slight heal off. He only has that 1 splash that won't heal for too long. Isaac and Co have to have a ton down below. We see Crater and Cutter looking for some potential elims, trying to close this out. Not a ton of space. Now the plays are coming in, face to face, box to box. The shots come through. Ghost is going to go down. That's 1 elimination. That'll help them sustain just a little bit longer. There's 2 players left. Now 1 player. Can Isaac make a play? He's all by himself. He's pretty healthy. Cut finds him. Oh, but no! He stays alive just long enough. Isaac able to clutch it up.
Wow, Isaac clutching it up right there. That's a 6 elimination victory royale for them. Exactly what they needed. When we saw that first place team going down, we saw that the door was open, and boy, did Isaac and co clutch it up in style with a victory royale and 6 eliminations. They were on high ground at the beginning of that endgame in their gun. I mean, I think they dropped down out of choice, which is really interesting.
Yeah, they're choosing to play whatever position they want and really effectively playing the low ground. We've seen it now multiple games in a row where they're taking the low and then just owning that space. And man, those clean plays by Isaac where he just grabbed a couple eliminations, I could see that again.
Yeah, we really could. And we're going to get to see it again as we see some of the replays from the previous game. The game number 3, a game full of action, intensity, and drama. Starting off with the battles of Stealthy Stronghold. Of course, so many battles going on in the later stages of the game as well, as Gage gets a great shot. I mean, what an end game for Isaac and co. They really didn't get too much action going into that, but they managed it so well when it mattered.
And it's just the clean plays on ulti low. Like, that's what it really comes down to. They were able to claim the low ground space and then clean it up. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're taking players out. This is our layer. Get off my layer, bros. You thought it was yours. Now it's ours. Unfortunate here, just a little bit more heals on Isaac than anyone else. And what another big game by these guys.
Yeah, really, really big game. They've been so consistent. They've just been missing that victory royale in the first 3 games, but they managed to clutch it up in game number 3, getting that all-important victory royale, which we have seen from them. And hopefully for them, they will continue to dominate in the rest of these games. But before we do get into the next few games and check on the leaderboard, I've got to take a break. I know you do somebody's gun. It's going to be impressive to see the leaderboard and game number 4, but we're going to take a break and we'll see you all later. What is up, Fortnite fam? We are back for the PlayVS College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. Minimana and Somebody's Gun here breaking down all the action for you. And man, was game number 3 full of it. We had so much action to break down. Where do we start?
I genuinely don't know. I guess we go backwards and work our way in, right? We saw that win by Isaac, just a sliver more HP than anyone else on the other team, able to play that heal off well. And before that, we could talk about the nice, clean elims on the low ground, or we can even talk about first place going down very early, leaving an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely right. We saw first place going down and Bizit really took hold of that and managed to clutch up with the victory. What does that mean, though, for the leaderboard? I know you guys at home are excited. I'm excited. And we're going to be seeing that right now. What is going to be happening on the leaderboard side of things? And yes, it is Bizit, Riggs, and Ghost who now have taken the drops at the top spot. 7 Begs and Mars, they've dropped down to 3rd.
Yeah, and Camarino, Cut, and Crater able to take that 2nd place right there. Showing pretty consistent gameplay, averaging 5th place after 3 matches. That's really impressive. Now we're taking a look at the 2nd page here. These guys probably had 1 good game or a couple of okay games. Still plenty of opportunity. We're only halfway through this tournament, Miner. A lot of games to be played, and what was it? I believe 20th and up is making some cash, so you can be making some changes.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, we still have 3 games to go. We've only seen half of the games that we will be seeing today. It is the halfway point, and I'm excited to see who comes out on top at the end. Will it be Bizit and Co? Will they continue their domination? But of course, we saw Mars and his trio falling a little bit earlier on than they would have liked. Maybe they're going for the less consistent, more high elimination pop-off games that we talked about before. Or will it be the consistency of other teams that are sort of coming out on top today? I don't know about me, but what about you, Gun? Which sort of strategy would you opt for if you were playing in this?
Placement. That would be my go-to.
Yeah, in a bush.
I don't know about that. I'm very afraid of bushes. I've had some poor experiences in the past, so I tend to avoid them, or at least fire a shotgun shot just as a warning. If you're hiding in a bush, no, I'm gonna take a shot at you first, maybe for 8 damage, but at least I got the first shot off.
You got something there, and that's the damage. That is the Storm Surge that we need going to this end game. If we were a trio, we'd be going in every single bush and making sure we get the damage. But Storm Surge is something that we've seen a lot of teams struggle with so far, but we've also seen plenty of teams go for those sort of mid-game fights. They are quite risky. We saw Mars and Co falling a little bit earlier on than they would have liked, and that's really the decision that a lot of these teams have to make. Do we go for the tags, or do we take those fights in the early to middle stages of the game? And I think that is really the turning point for this team, particularly for Mars's team as well. But I've just got word that the battle bus is loaded. They're ready. They're dropping in, and I'm excited to see what happens in game number 4. Let's see what's going to go down.
Yeah, we'll be checking it out, seeing where Camarino's landing, looking like they're going towards Weeping. I believe they've had this unconned all day, so wouldn't expect anything else. And Isaac all the way up in the air. He's got a long way to land, so let him do his thing. He'll be all right. Tuning in to Camarino, seeing what's going on at Weeping for the first time in a long time, and these guys have been playing well out of it. Looking like it's being split, or at least someone's trying to steal a little bit of loot by grabbing that Spire loot up there and rotating on out. We do know that a team was landing at the burger place nearby, but here's where our fights have been happening all day, at this IO base.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. We've seen teams uncontested at Lazy Lake. We've seen teams uncontested at Coral Castle, and so many teams that are uncontested. Yet we have an off-spawn fight at this tiny little IO guard base just to the sort of western side of the Lazy Lake area. Utilizing the turret here is Slimaxis right now, who is trying and connect with some of these shots. Of course, this weapon does do 40 damage to the body and 60 to the head, which we're seeing in full effect right there from Slimaxis. He only has an SMG in his inventory, 12 builds and no shield. Of course, you are left pretty much a sitting duck when you're on this, aren't you, Gun?
Yeah, you gotta lock it down. Like, going up there, you gotta lock it down and trust that your teammates have you covered. Looks like his teammate tried to toss him this big shield. He's gonna be able to get that off, and now they're gonna look for a play, pushing up. They know that they've gotten some damage done. Dust Bunny and Row looking for some shots. Player sneaking down below. Now we find the player out. He's somewhere in the bush. Not enough damage really coming through. I don't know. Maybe, like, to me, this is where if you know somebody's in that bush, just start firing shots. We do see, here's some shots coming through, and the turret already putting damage onto that player, but nothing significant. I only see the 2 down below. I don't know where their third is. Oh, okay, there he is. He's trying to get out of the way in the car, running over towards the turret. He's making a play. There's the opportunity to turn this fight around. Some shots coming through on both teams, but nothing significant. And Flute's just sitting in the bush. One shot comes through for Road. Not enough to get the elimination. Spanker has gone down, and that's going to be a difficult issue as now Arrow's looking to make something happen. He's able to get some shots through, get it a knock. There's one. But is it enough to make a big play, get some more damage done? AR shots, not enough. Down goes the Arrows, and the fight is now 2v1.
Wow, that was an incredible way that fight went down as we see Flute right now just on 10 HP. Is he going to be able to have time to pop that bandage? I don't think so, as Ro looks as though he is a little bit weak as well. Flute now down to 10 HP, nearly able to connect with some shots that could result in his elimination. And no, he goes down, Flute right there. But that fight was really, really interesting. It was silent. It was almost so quiet. It was like a library in this area. And then it just turned into all-out heavy metal Fortnite. Someone makes a play, they go around to the turret, and then all craziness ensues, and we saw a great fight right there from Ro and his team. It looks like the player on the turret does eventually go down, but it was a really, really interesting way to sort of separate the trio there, particularly when you're off spawn. You can utilize those turrets very, very well. High damage output, and definitely a very, very good rate of fire as well. Particularly the fact that you don't need ammo for it, as it looks as though the 33 team have gone down. It's Merc, it's Pearl, and it's their team that have ended up falling in the early stage of this game, hopping on board with Mars, Vex, and Seven, who they're going to be looking for a better game 4 than they had 3.
Without a doubt, and already this game, not that it's moving quickly, it's moving a little faster than we've seen in the previous matches. Already down to 30 trios, 88 players. Likely going to see some reboots come through, because I would imagine not everyone is a fully eliminated trio. But now we see, like, one of the reasons why these guys are doing so well, because they have all of Misty and the surrounding areas to themselves. When you're able to get that much loot, if you can properly capitalize on it, you're in such a good spot.
Yeah, that's so true. Particularly when they're uncontested as well. They really don't have to worry too much about those off-spawn fights. I think that's why we're seeing them go for those sort of more mid to late game elimination plays where they're trying to take fights. We saw it didn't quite work out for them in that previous game, but the fact that they're able to get so many eliminations going into the end game really just sorts them out on the Storm Surge. And of course, as you mentioned earlier, getting those refreshes going into the end game is absolutely vital for them. I think that's why we were able to see them dominate up on high ground in game number 1 right off the offset. It's a really, really great strategy from them when it works. But as we saw in the previous game, you do run the risk of potentially getting eliminated a little bit prematurely and a little bit earlier than you would have wanted. And particularly when you do come up against teams that also need that Storm Surge, the fight can be a little bit messy. It can be a little bit uncoordinated, and that's where you lose your sense of direction with your teammates.
Yeah, it really comes into putting in the work early as opposed to just trying to make something happen at the last second when your back's against the ropes. Now we see some more fights going on across the map. This one's over at the bridge outside of Corny Crops. Not necessarily a fight. Everyone just kind of posturing, putting themselves in a position to look for shots. And looks like the team 88 going to be backing on out. That fight that could have been is no more.
Yeah, I think that was important for this team. I think this team, Snow and Roundy and Nicole right here, these guys are trying to claim this bridge area. It's such a great way to base up and not have to net any materials. You know, you obviously have to spend the materials initially, but the net loss is 0. You know, you can refarm the materials at the bridge. You don't have to worry about, too many rotations to make because there's so much metal on that bridge. And I think that's what that team was trying to do. And it looked as though 2 teams sort of met in the middle. 2 teams had the same idea and they clashed. And that is where we're seeing both of these teams rotating a different way. I think for this team with Nicole, I think they don't want to go for that spot anymore because they know there's a team nearby, and it's really not going to be too much of a good spot for them if they do decide that they need to push that team. You know, they're on the lower ground section. If that team needs surge, they will push them, and it's not the best position for them to be in. So I like the way they're rotating on out here. From one bridge to another, though, we're seeing the bridge just to the north of Boney Burbs, and it's Drasser, Sirius, and Vexy who do appear to be in a little bit of sort of above a team. And they're also trying to go for Storm Surge tags at the same time.
Yeah, looks like we had a stalemate in this fight. I would have expected them to at least started that fight at some point, and then one team boxed below, one team went up above, and then the fight stalled. Now we're all just looking for tags on other players. Tuning in with Verminous, Crush, and Empty. Also in an engagement here right outside Slurpy Swamp. Sludgy Swamp, I apologize. And we have 2 mats. Verminous going to need to make a play, get some shots here. Big shots come through. Looks like Kirk goes down. That's a big shot by Crush. He's putting damage out. Isolate gets damage back as well, and now these two have turned the tide of this fight. They may not have the 3 men, but at least they have the damage down and could potentially get their teammate up while they res.
Yeah, that could be a really good opportunity for this team to just sort of get their card and rotate on out. We know how many reboot vans are inside of the Season 8 season. I mean, we saw how many more seconds were added onto the reboot cards as well. You can really have almost an eternity to pick up your teammates' reboot. So I'm sure they'll be able to utilize that well and potentially utilize one of the reboot vans that are dotted around the map. Of course, there is plenty of time to do that as well. I think that's a good time to take the fight because, as we've seen, if one of your teammates do go down, the other teammates can dip off and they can go for that reboot. It's definitely not going to be as beneficial as having your teammate up from the beginning because now they have to start from square one. Empty here has to refarm all his materials, try and get himself some decent loot going into this end game as well. And you're back to square one. It's back to the start, and you have to refarm everything and get everything back up. So for this team, it's going to be interesting to see if they can make their way all the way to the end with that limited loot.
And just shouts out real quick to my boy Verminous. Appreciate him, and awesome to see him being able to make it to the finals here. I know his team isn't doing as well as they hope, but still plenty of time to turn that around. Once again, seeing what's going on at the pyramid. Hitsbola struggling to make the rotation through it. Getting shot at from multiple different players, so this is going to be a tough rotate. I'm not sure you want to be spending as many builds as they are just simply getting through this area. Have to rethink their strategy on this rotate. Should not be going through this space at this time.
Yeah, it's a very, very tough rotate for them, but they're almost left with little other choice because there's teams sort of surrounding them. They're already funneling them into this area, and they really don't want to be rotating through here. As you mentioned, it's such a pinch point for so many teams to be looking, and there's so many different areas that surround this whole middle section that it's so wide open. So many pairs of eyes will be looking at you and trying to get some Storm Surge tags, particularly at this moment in the game where there's still 88 players remain. So for Hitsbola and his team, they don't have any eliminations yet. It looks like they're trying to get their way early into zone, which definitely has its advantages as well. You can get that early Storm Surge tags if necessary. But I think for that team right there, they are going to be rotating in. They're going to be able to try and get as many tags as they can. They need it because of the lack of eliminations. And the same for the 88 trio right here. These guys are going to be doing as many tags as they can. A really, really popular surge spot here just on the sort of northern side of Lazy Lake. You get a good amount of vision across the whole sort of south area, sort of southwest side of the map. You can see all the way into retail. You can see people boxing up below you and all the way into Lazy as well, which is really, really good for them. They can really get as many tags as they can here, particularly when they have this amount of heals as well. It almost gives you that flexibility to not necessarily overpeak for too long, but you can make a few more risky plays.
Oh yeah, you can stand right out, especially because there's no one-shot long-range weapon. All you have to do is stand right out. You take a couple of shots, or you let your teammate take a couple of shots. Then you turn it back over, and looking like Swerved, able to get this elimination. This is a hot spot right here, Miner. We've seen so many fights, like off spawn this happens, and then it just continues, game in and game out.
I know, it does. I think, is there some sort of party here that I'm missing out on? Because everyone seems to be going there, and it seems as though it's a bit of a party of eliminations at the moment, as this team trying to get in. It's Row, I believe, is the team that did fight off spawn here and were successful, but unfortunately weren't successful in the second fight that they were taking. So Swerved and his trio will be more than happy with that. They will pick up the pieces and, of course, picking up the loot right there. Now they've got a bit of trek, though, into zone. They've got a bit of a trek. They have to make their way in, and, of course, there's so many of these teams stationed up on these mountains that it's not going to be easy for them. I don't think they're going to be able to rotate in unscathed, but at this current stage, if they do manage to get their way in, they'll be looking really, really good. They have that refresh. We talked about it earlier, how important that is, getting that refresh, and this is what this team could be doing right now. It's Renegade hopping in the box. Can they get some eliminations? They can. They take out one. They take out two. There goes down Aria as well, as Low Man is left as a solo. Conman goes down, and no, the 88 trio, they were on the back foot, and now they are back in the lobby. That's so unfortunate for them.
Such a misplay too, because the other team was trying to do a pre-edit play They screwed up the pre-edit play. They had one player in a box with 3 enemies. They should have been able to clean that up, but even for Leppy, Conman, and Ranster, this is not a good spot to be. He's going to be able to go back into Lazy. It's only going to be a 2-tick storm when this closes, but that's not at all how you wanted that to go. A little bit of a misplay on both sides. Leppy wind up being the one that's alive, and if played correctly, those 3 could walk back after the reboot, grab all that loot, and honestly, nothing really even changed, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully for them. They do have 3 medkits right there, so that's pretty good. Maybe that could be enough for them to heal their way back out. Looking at the zone, it looks though it does sort of pull in their favor as well in a way. As we see the corny Croc scene here, team here, Vexy, Sirius, and Drazo right now. They're trying to look for some more eliminations. It looks as though they have taken out the duo that were next to them, the duo of the trio, and they're just trying to sneak out. They're just trying to use all of their senses to find the final piece of the puzzle, and it is the player that's in the storm. It was Grizzle right there, I believe, who was stuck inside of the storm. They're going to hopefully pick up that elimination for them, and they do in the feed. We see that Jason there picking up an elimination on Dylan, another one of our top teams right there. They have 4 eliminations this game, which is really, really good. They have to be careful with this rotate. You can see on the bottom right of your screen, is that 2, 3, maybe 4 teams surrounding them. So timing is going to be absolutely vital for this team.
It's 100% going to be vital, and they need to figure it out. It's probably going to cost them some materials. I'd expect them to use a lot of their wood on this rotate based on all the players around them. And we do see, oh, this is going to be tough. You see those shots coming through, an auto sniper all the way up on that hill, and they're just going to be relentless along this whole rotate. There's literally nothing that other team is going to have to worry about except for some shots coming return from Capilati & Co. But if I'm Capilati & Co., I got more to worry about than putting some shots back. So if I'm that team up there, I'm going to sit there, take shots, enjoy this, and then just continue to farm this damage, maybe even get an elimination. Now is the time you need to go. There's players in the air. Don't shoot at them. Rotate, my man.
That is an opportunity to rotate for them as they look as though the players could be in the air and could be getting focused by the team that are focusing them, but they choose the option of going for some tags as they do identify that there is one of these sort of bounced launch pads right next to them. They're going in the slipstream. They're opting for this opportunity to utilize this. It's a very, very risky strategy. Of course, you are, there's an audio queue. You are open to so many teams that are spraying you, and we're hopping on board with our first place team from game number 1. It's 7 Mars and Begs, and in game number 4 here, it looks as though they've been a little bit more successful in that mid-game fight that we know they love to take. They do have 3 eliminations, which indicates to me that they may have taken out a trio, which is good. I think that's good from them. That's exactly what they wanted, and I think this is more going to plan as opposed to what we saw in the last game. Now they can play to their strengths. They can play to their, their strategies and their predetermined sort of plan, which is good. And I'm excited to see if they can really mount an attack back on top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, and sometimes it really just comes down to getting complacent. You have 2 really good matches in a row, you're like, oh, this is easy. You're thinking you're running the lobby, and then you try and W key the wrong team, wind up getting a quick reality check. All right, we may be the best team in this lobby, but there's other competitors here. Now, cooling it back down, we see them not being as aggressive in this mid-game. They do have 3 eliminations, but not doing anything crazy. Southern side of the zone, the rotate's going to be fairly easy for them. Not many people in the way. And they're just going to get up, I would assume, post up somewhere near that spire and grab that positioning.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for them as it looks as though they are sort of stationed up next to this Rocketman team. And it looks as though they're trying to get some tags on each other whilst the zone is about to close. We have 45 seconds until that zone does start to close. And if you look at the zone, it does appear to be going up. They could be using that launch pad, which is why they're making their way a little bit slower and a little bit later than everyone else. If they do use that launch pad, it could be a good time to use it, get it out of the way to make sure that they don't waste it. You don't want to be getting eliminated with launch pads, particularly if you could have used them a little bit earlier on. But maybe they are just going to rotate on foot, which is going to be the option they're going to go for. Really, really smart smart from them to let the teams around them rotate. And it looks as though they are going to have a pretty free rotate up until they emerge from the sort of horizon of this hill. So many teams will be looking at them there as Smiggy tries to clutch up with an elimination, but he can't quite get it. He gets shut down by Vexy TV, who gets another elimination. We've seen them on the front foot a lot today. Diddy going down. Another Harpoon play from this trio as they're trying to farm as many materials from that elimination as they can. That was Micah who does pick up that elimination for them. That's one elimination for their trio. They're looking good as well. They can't quite get enough of that refresh, and that's not quite going to be enough, Storm. So, oh no, it is. There we go. 330 above for this team. They might want to get a little bit more going into moving zones, but for now, this is a really good position to be in and a really great elimination for Micah.
Yeah, I think they need to get a couple more boxes to successfully get in Storm. Now able to find a little more loot that was on top of them. They're probably searching for as much as they can. I mean, we see Micah has literally no metal in his inventory, so that's a little tough. Got to rely on his teammates, especially at this point in the game. You want to be using those metal builds to protect yourself. Now we see Shades getting Elam in the feed, and man, this west side is just absolute chaos. Oh my goodness. Everyone's getting beamed up. So many shots coming through. Micah's trying to get on out, but his teammate might wind up going down. And look at that. There's like 4 trios right on top of one another.
So many trios all the way up on that hill. Meanwhile, all these trios down below next to the lake. Jason and Capalotti, they can just go on a little fishing holiday on that little corner because they're just chilling. They don't have too many people next to them, but unfortunately for Crater, they're not in that same chilling position. Camarino having to get off some shots as well. He only has about 10 HP and Crater down to 24 as well. Hasn't really got the bills to hold off from this constant pressure, the unrelenting pressure from the opposing teams. Is going to get a moment's respite though to pop these minis if he can. It looks as though the 5th zone is a little bit more favorable to them. And wow, what a refresh. The power of the Harpoon utilizing it so effectively there, picking up so many more materials. So not only is that going to really give him a better chance at holding off from potential spray, it also gives him a really great opportunity to get into the next zone and rotate in. So from a situation that wasn't looking too good, they've really saved it there with the Harpoon.
Yeah, nice little play. Just that little extra loot can sustain them a little longer in this game. We see Nax, Sigma, and Taco once again playing a high ground position. They're one of those trios that consistently wants to play that spot and winds up working out more often than not. You know, you gotta play to win the game, and that's exactly what these guys are doing. They've seen Height dominate thus far and want a piece of that themselves. Take a look at how zone's playing out. Everyone is playing towards that center area, except these few trios out on our right side. Jason, Riddix, Shades, all hanging out by themselves over there, just looking, taking shots, while the infighting happens underneath.
So much battling going on down below. It looks like Sigma and Nak and Taco King, they seem to be holding out the high ground for now. We've seen it happen so many times where trios take the high ground a little bit too early. They sort of run out of steam, run out of the materials. But I think this team do have themselves a Harpoon, which could be absolutely vital for picking up those refreshes, as we saw earlier. A really, really great device to pick up as many mats as possible. But no, the zone seems to pull all the way over the hill. And I think it goes all the way back down as well, towards the sort of northern area here. I think it goes up and then back down all the way towards that IO guard at base. So it doesn't really pull in too many of these teams' favor, which makes it very exciting. Which team's going to launch pad first? Who's going to try and recycle that launch pad? It looks like it's Vexy's team who do try and use that launch pad. Vexy getting stuck in the back, though. That's going to be a tough one for him to rotate over. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really tough rotate, as it seems as though some teams, like Renegade and Co., they've positioned themselves on the front side, whilst a lot will rely on the launch pads.
Yeah, it does pull towards that half that was already in zone, and we see Ranster and Co. sitting, waiting for their shots. They're going to look back. They're going to get one knock. That's a big shot that comes through, and now it's time for them to start their own rotation along this path. We do see players up ahead of them. They're not going to be able to take this same path that they want. The launch pad is in the inventory of Ranster. He's going to use that, pop it up, and look, it exceeds all the way up on high ground with Gage and Shades. They hold that dominant position on natural high ground, and that's going to be a great spot. But Ranster and Conman in a really good position as well. They've rotated a front side, have a good amount of materials, and are looking to play this position and hold this zone.
Yeah, really great pat from them, leaving it a little bit later, tarp their way in front of zone, and then got ahead and managed to make their way into the zone without having to use too many materials. But we talk about it, Shades, Exceed, and Gage all the way up on high ground. Such a power position for them to connect to this sort of shard of the mothership. They're doing that very effectively as well. Maybe they're going to have to go for a little bit of a launch pad to front side of zone. They will. They're going to have to leave that ultimate high ground for now and potentially spray up from other teams that are trying to go for it. Shades, we know he loves the high ground. We know he loves a great win on the high ground. We've seen him do it so often in trio events before. They did it so well in the previous PlayVS trio finals as well. Can they do it again? He has 5 eliminations with his trio so far, which is really good. Gage picking up another in the storm from Rocket Man. Really good stuff from them so far. Launching the front side, being able to crank back up as well. With 11 teams remaining, you have to think they're going to win this.
They should be, and they're in a really good spot all the way up on height. The only thing they don't have is that assault rifle ammo that will be able to put the pressure on. They're up above, spraying down. Zone continues to pull into open space. This is really good for those high ground teams. It's not going back into old builds, but look who is still alive. Rix, Ghost, and Isaac are now playing this mid-ground tarp. A fully built metal tarp shows me that they are healthy and thriving. Shades is dropping down though, trying to claim some double edits and look for some potential eliminations on the players. Little do they know that is the first place trio, and that could be a huge swing if they're able to make it. Ranster and Conman navigating through, hits a shot, not going to be able to get the refresh. Oh no, they do jump on it. That's going to be a little dangerous, but Zone luckily is pulling that way. More shots come through. That's another knock that's coming through for Conman. He gets another one. He's popping here on the low ground. Mystics is down. That is a big play, and Ranster now has to clutch up by himself. He's sitting in Storm, not many materials, gonna pop the flops. Felix is right ahead of him. He looks for the rotate, not gonna come through just yet. Following the path of Felix, he finds the shots. Felix harpoons him. Ranster's just sitting in Storm. Felix is going to allow this to happen. He doesn't have much of a choice. Oh, but Ranster gets eliminated. Isaac on this mid-ground layer is continuing to search for it. It's the high ground team that's dominating this game, but what can Isaac do?
Isaac as a solo, we've seen him do it clutch up so many times. We've seen him do it before. Can we see it again? Shades all the way up on high ground. They're looking to dominate. Isaac though going up as a solo. He's mad. He's insane. He's crazy. He's dominant up on high ground as well as a solo. He takes it. He takes control of the game. He takes the power position. He takes the dominant position. But is he going to be able to hold it with only 10 bills to his name as a solo? 1 elimination for his name so far. 9 total for his team. 2 other teams remain, but no. The materials run out. He cannot quite hold it. It is high ground. It's the high ground duo of Shades and Exceed. Can they do it? Yes, they can. It's Felix going down, and it's Shades, Gage, and Exceed coming out on top in game number 4.
That was a huge match. 13 eliminations. I mean, we saw them get on that natural high ground position, and it was pretty much as good as over. There was one team that looked to contest them, quickly shut down, sent back, and now more teams are knocking. A lot of players are looking for that first place spot, but I mean, Isaac getting all the way to that final zone, really going to be hard for a team to overcome them, and we'll have to see how it winds up. And hey, let's take a look at some of those awesome moments we just saw, Miner.
Yeah, let's definitely take a look. Really impressive stuff from all of these trios, going into the end game. Really impressive stuff in particular from Isaac, although not being able to clutch up and get the victory royale. Him and his trio, they're so good at all being alive, healthy, and well at the end. They're all alive, they're all still there, and they're all able to dominate, which is great to see. We see a lot of mid-game fights taking place. A lot of fights are unfavorable for a lot of teams as well. Made for a crazy end game as well. Conman, right at the end, getting 2, 3, 4 eliminations in a row. He was really stringing together some great stuff.
Yeah, Conman popping off. Everyone having their moment, but here's our leaders. I don't expect it to change after this one. Even though Exceed, Shades win this one, that'll move them up the leaderboard. We'll have to see exactly where they wind up, but what a beautifully played game, and we're seeing some well-oiled machines that are these collegiate trios right now, Miner. They are so good.
Yeah, they really are so good. Today has been so good so far. We still have 2 games to come, though, and of course, we got you covered with the leaderboard. But before we do that, we're going to have to take a short break, so we'll see you all later.
running it. Running it.
And we are back for the PlayVS College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. We've had some insane actions so far. Myself, Mini Miner, and somebody's gonna be breaking down the action for you all day. We're 4 games deep so far, Gun. It's been some exciting stuff, but one team so far for me has been taking it all away.
Oh, and I think if anyone's been watching, we don't even have to throw out their names. I'll leave it in suspense so you guys can see what the leaderboard looks like when we do check it out. But man, they're absolutely taking over, and there's a lot of work to do if anyone else wants to win this event.
Yeah, we're going to find out who they are in just a moment. You mentioned the leaderboard right there. We'll have a little look. It's Bizek. Of course it is. It's Bizek. Rixon goes all the way up on top. 265 points so far ahead of second place. But there's still 2 games to play for. There's so many points on offer. It is definitely not over yet, Gun.
Definitely not over. I mean, anything can happen. We see players go down early all the time, and like we talked about in that last game, you can get complacent and just fall early, but a lot of these positions are really close. From 20th all the way up to about 8th is less than 60 points, so that's a very small gap to be closed very quickly if a team is going down. And same goes for that 20th spot. It's 90 points. It seems like 90 points all the way from like 15th down to, I don't even know, let's call it like 30th. These teams are very close. It's going to be close. It's a one-man show for first place, but all these positions matter, Miner.
Yeah, they do, and we saw it with the prizing earlier on. So many big prizes leading up to that first place spot. There's so much going into that, of course. We can take another look at that to remind you guys as well. Look at that. It's $9,000 going to our first place team. And as we just mentioned right there, there's still a lot of money on the line for that second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah, there is. And anything could really change in these final matches. No one has solidified any of these spots. Yes, there is a big lead in first place. Yes, we will continue to talk about it because they're playing really freaking well. But it is by no means over, and every single spot is still up for grabs.
That is absolutely right. And a special shout out, speaking of that, to Shades, Gage, and Exceed, because I was told that they were 25th going into game number 4, and now they sit in 7th. We just saw the leaderboard. They are now 7th, and that is what this point scoring format can really do for you. It really rewards high eliminations combined with the high placement as well. So what they did right there, they got a 12 elimination victory royale, which really shot them up the leaderboard, and anything can happen. That just proves that one pop-off game is all that matters.
Yeah, it is. And I just want to take a moment while we have a second. If you guys weren't here for the top of the show, I do ask that you type !control in chat. He was a prominent figure within the PlayVS scene and the collegiate scene and a friend of many. So just please type that in. The family did throw together a GoFundMe to support the passing and funeral costs. So I just ask you guys, take a second, learn about who Control was if you don't know. And if you do know, hey, you know, hearts in the chat for my man. He was a great dude.
Yeah, he really was, and really, really great asset to the PlayVS collegiate scene, as are so many of the players today. We've seen so many great actions. We've seen so many great plays, from high ground takes, low ground plays, mid ground scuffles as well, right in that end game. But so many teams really making a name for themselves. We saw Seven, Beggs, and Mars, those guys having an absolute storming start, not quite being able to really replicate that in the last few games, but they do sit at 3rd right now, which with 185 points, so they're definitely within it as well. So all we really need for these other teams down below is for Bizik and his trio to have a less than favorable last few games, and you know, maybe they can clutch up and come for that first place spot. But I've just got word that the Battle Bus is ready. Every single player is just about getting on, and they are jumping out, ready to dominate, hopefully, this game. It's all important. It's the penultimate game. It's game number 5.
And it looks like Gage, Shades, and Exceed are contested over at Caddy Corner. They're going to have to fight this out. They may have won the last game, but that by no means gives them this spot. We see Russo and Nathaniel in this area. Actually, they're kind of lost right now. It looks like Russo's trying to pop a medkit. Nathaniel doesn't necessarily know where his opponents are at yet. Gage only has his shotgun, unfortunately. Not going to be able to provide too much pressure or damage from a distance, and trying to close the gap here on opponents.
Yeah, they really are, and this is, of course, our game number 4 winners, so it's going to be interesting to see how they fight off spawn. And Catty Corner is such a popular drop spot at the moment. There's so many great little areas that you can go to. It looks as though Gage having to get into a little bit of an engagement right now as well. No shield to his name either, and now this other team are going to be aware of that fact. He's got to try and close out an elimination to not only get that health back with that siphon, but also to make it a nice 3v2 for him, Shades, and Exceed, to really get that snowball effect going. Of course, we mentioned how low down they were on the leaderboard going into game number 4, but they managed to clutch it up. If they can keep the ball rolling and they can keep the show going, they can definitely clutch up and get inside of that top 5 potentially, or maybe even something a little bit better. Shades trying to look for the opposing player, but I think they're all inside. I think he doesn't understand that they're all inside of the building. He wants to be looking towards that side and gets that knock. He gets the knock on Nathaniel right there. It's the 33 trio. We see Russo right there inside of the Bills, and Shades just holding off a little bit. He's made it a 3v2. Getting that first knock gun is absolutely vital in these off-spawn fights.
Yeah, it definitely is. Gage hits a big shot right there to take down. We got one more player on the opposing team. Russo trying to pop a med kit once again. Gage not in a position to push that, and they're going to close this together as a team. All they want to do is wait for the right moment, but sometimes it takes some time. You can't exactly pop into this without knowing what's going on. Deciding not to shake, just getting the finish here, getting that HP back, and likely going to find this last player to clean him up. But need to be careful. Don't want to go down unnecessarily. He does give himself up. Gage, Shades closing this one in. Gage has no builds, but you don't need builds. It's only a shotgun. You got one shot. Not even going to have to use it. It is his boys, Exceed and Shades, cleaning it up, and that's another dub off spawn.
Another dub off spawn indeed, and such a vital dub for this team. Coming off the back of a nice victory royale, they need to keep the ball rolling, they need to keep that momentum going, and that will be so vital in them closing out this game number 5 in start. They've got that Storm Surge sorted as well so far. If they can pick up a few more tags, they don't necessarily have to go for those box fights later on, as we saw Mars and co have a little bit of trouble with that in game number 3, but I think it's going to be interesting how they play out the rest of this. Will they be able to replicate that same success on high ground, or will they go for a little bit more reserved low to mid ground play? I think there's 3 different teams right here at Believer Beach, often an area that a lot of teams will be rotating into, as we see the team rotating from the castle area, as well as teams rotating from the sort of corrupted area to the south. This is going to be an interesting fight, because I think every single team here looks as though they're set up for battle. They're all sort of just outside.
A weird place to be fighting, but I guess, you know, you got to start making up some points at some stage in the game, and that's exactly what's going on here as well, as Verminus is going to get taken out. Looks like he was going for the shake, but I guess that's not happening. Polaris' teammates not allowing the shake to come through. Verminus' teammates have dipped on out of here. They only were able to pick up Verminus. Everyone else has appeared to move on out. Now Polaris and co have some damage dealt. Gonna look for a rotate, or just find a position that they want to base up at, because they are already in zone.
Yeah, they're already in zone. They're on the edge. I think they will try and seek out this duo, though, because, of course, when you know that there's a duo out there somewhere, especially when you maybe even know the outfits that they're wearing, you can sort of go for that with a little bit more confidence, particularly when it looks as though that other trio have split. So the duo have gone, one's gone one way, one's gone the other, one's gone towards Sludgy, and the other one's gone towards the Misty side. So interesting decision from them, but I guess it keeps them both alive, even if one of them does go down. So not too bad of an idea from them. Now that we got the battles of Pleasant Park, Swerved and his trio look to be in a bit of an off-spawn engagement. We've seen some battling here so far at the very beginning of the day. We saw some battles at Pleasant Park. Great little tags from Swerve, as he does manage to get this mini shield off, healing his way back up to nearly 150 HP. The material count looking good as well. Nearly 500 metal going into this off-spawn fight. And I think that's really, really what's going to be the difference here. Having enough materials, having enough resources going into this, it really allows you to come out on top.
Yeah, I'd guess that this fight probably winds up stalling out. Either he winds up getting third-partied, or someone's just going to disengage. Once these fights turn into just simply shooting AR shots like this, most of the time you can't get close enough to really get into a fight. And both teams, they were looking for a tag. The only way this really turns is if one team gets caught out and they get awareness checked, essentially, have no idea what's going on, and then the fight begins. And it looks like Archer might be trying to do something similar. This is a different fight we're checking into. This is over at the Spire outside of Weeping. Archer's trying to make a play. I don't see his teammates too close by. They are in the area. Okay, yeah, they're down below. Archer probably called off by somebody. That would not have been a smart play to jump into a full trios box.
No, I don't think that's ever a smart play in any situation. So I like the way that he's got back to his team right there and thought, okay, yeah, maybe he's confident in his own abilities, but you could be the best player in the world. I think coming up against the trio, it's almost impossible. We have seen it done, and that's what the beauty of trios is all about. It can be done. It is not impossible, but I think at this stage of the game, you really don't want to be taking those risks unless you absolutely have to. Now that we're hopping on board with Tabichi and his trio, looks like there's another team that seems to be rotating on in. There's so many teams in and around this area that I think One Shot and his team, they almost don't know where to look. They're overwhelmed by the amount of trios, and Call Me AK does get knocked right there, and I think that's why we see the launch pad coming out from One Shot and Tabichi. They do decide to rotate on out. A little bit of an early launch pad. I'm sure they would be disappointed with how early they've had to use that. But I think staying alive, staying as a at least a duo is going to be better than, trying to fight that out and really, risking losing it all.
Yeah, it's definitely the better play, especially when the majority of the points you're going to get are from placements. Obviously, you get 2 points per elimination, but by no means is the reward of 2 points worth the risk of losing that potential, let's call it 30, of getting, a top 5, top 10 somewhere in there. Now we're seeing some more fights happening. Everyone's getting involved. There's a lot of fights happening here, Miner, but not a lot of eliminations. We still have 90 players up in this game.
Yeah, still 90 players. Zakaria and his trio looking to to make a change to that, as they are looking to be a little bit more aggressive with that sideways minigun. Not quite the mythic version, but the epic variant right here. Does get tagged, though, from this other player who does seem to be on a little bit of a roll. It seems to be, this player does seem to be outside of their box. He's left stray from his trio. It's a stray dog almost, left off his leash, and he's decided to rotate to this trio and gets punished for it as well. That's Ozzy, who does decide to go for that play. It didn't quite work out in his favor, though, as Zakaria tries to get some shots off right now as Archer and Mandinka. These guys have to heal their way back up to a good amount of HP. The little fire comes out as well. It's the gas cans that get exploded inside of their box. Such a dangerous play and a dangerous decision to build out of wood, because no, Zakaria is so weak. The Storm is going to take out the rest of his HP. It's Oracles right now. Oh, Oracles who does take out Zakaria. Now the Archer having to do it as a duo with Mandinka. Can he do it? No, he can't. Mandinka going for the res on as Archer on Zakaria right now. He does have the medkit, so he can heal his way back up. Does get the revive as well, but is this going to be game over for this trio? Could it be the fire that is the deciding factor here?
Not sure. Plenty of heals here on Mandinka. If this does turn into a Storm play, we see Haiti hitting a big pot as well. So everyone pretty much healthy now after that fight had occurred. And there's a full trio waiting on the outside. So whoever wins this, your prize is getting third-partied as you walk into Storm.
Yeah, not the best prize, and I'm sure these teams will not be happy if they were to wind up with that sort of prize, but I'm sure they'll be able to rotate their way in without too much. Okay, no, they didn't. No, they did not. I was going to say they were going to be able to rotate in without any shots taken, but no, they didn't. Ozzy now left as a solo, does have to try and rotate his way all the way around. I didn't think that team in the Storm would go for that, because of course there was a little bit of a revive play from Mandinka in his trio, so I didn't really expect them to go for those tags, but they did, and they took out a player as a result as well, which is good. So Ozzy now left as a solo, having to try and pick up the pieces. Only 4 builds as well. No white heals. Looks as though he's trying to go for these sort of noms boxes to pick up some various vegetables and fruits that he can eat. We see him all the way to the left, the little green arrow right there. And yeah, we see that trio still holding. And as you mentioned, Gun, there's a nice little prize for Mandinka and Co as they rotate on out.
Oh, yeah, and it looks like that trio's still holding. Now that Zone's starting to move, I would expect them to rotate on out. But both... I'd say all 3 of those trios are going to be in a difficult spot. I know one of them's a duo, one of them's a solo, one of them's a trio at this point. But these late rotates could be very difficult if you wind up running into someone playing Edge. Nonetheless, someone that is not playing Edge, and looks like we have a triple decker. This is one of those nice triple decker sandwiches of multiple different players on top of one another in the zone. And look at this. Look at that teamwork. Getting back, getting your teammate back. Ozzy was unable to get any kind of reboots, but Mandinka, Zakaria, able to get their teammate back and get back in this game as a full trio.
Hopefully they will, because of course the Storm is closing, and it will turn into a 2-tick when that Storm does eventually close. Now Derpy and Dylan and Arrow, of course, getting involved in a little bit of an engagement themselves. We know how good Derpy and Dylan are at duos. You've seen them dominate duos events very much recently, and Derpy does get cracked right there, so they are going to have to retreat back into their builds, back into their safe area, as the charge shotgun comes out as well. We talked about it before, how important that charge shotgun can be and how effective it can be, especially in these sort of like mid-game fights. So it looks as though Rix does get taken out there as well. Bizek managing to get the elimination on Edge, so that is our first place team, one of which going down. Big turning point in this game. It could open the door wide open for plenty of other teams that are looking for this, as Dylan does get lit up as he does go out as well. Potentially an unsuccessful Chug Smash there, but I think they managed to get the benefits of that heal. They're only 11 above, though, so they will still be on the hunt. They're still going to be looking for some more tags and maybe an elimination to go along with it, because they are now 38 damage below. Of course, that's not too much, but if they can take an engagement, maybe get some tags, that's going to get them afloat. But no, they're not going to be able to rotate on in, because look, there's maybe 2 teams that are holding them just inside of this pyramid area. This is going to be tough for them.
Yeah, Arrow able to get a couple of shots on there. Able to get them above for the moment. Doesn't mean that'll hold, but at least they don't have to worry about it right now. Can heal up and continue to put themselves in a better position. Derpy's still taking a fight, though. While both Arrow and Dylan are healing up, Derpy taking some shots on opponents, and now look at how many different players are posted up on this particular position within zone. None of them are in. They're all going to have to rotate. and it looks like no one's going to hold them. It's just one another that have to now deal with it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. You talked about a triple stack sandwich right there. It could almost turn into a bit of a game of Jenga in a sec, because all of these teams are going to have to topple on top of each other, having to rotate their way in all the way up into the zone. It's going to be tough for them because there's so many teams looking at them as well. We see the team at the pyramid. We also see the team at the sort of petrol station area as well. It's going to be interesting to see how this team rotate, because it's almost all about who goes first. Every team is waiting for who goes first, but no, Dylan drops in the box, gets taken out. Derpy's there as well, who nearly goes down. Do they clutch up the elimination? I don't think they can. Jason, though, on the receiving end of some shots himself, gets the elimination on Dylan and Derpy. That's both the dynamic duo going down. Arrow now left as a solo. It's Capalotti and Jason. We see them clutching up with eliminations, and they do it again. There goes Arrow, there goes Dylan and Derpy. And that was almost a delayed fight. We saw them sort of teasing the fight a little bit earlier on, but now it seems as though they have decided to take the fight, and they've come out on top as a duo.
And it looks like we have a similar position and fight going on the opposite side of the zone. So on south side, two trios going head to head. We got a couple of knocks, no eliminations yet. These two trios going back and forth, trading some shots, but ultimately now the Storm is going to be the biggest opponent to both these trios. One of them starting to move out. It's going to be up to Dr. Hitzbull and Micah to move their way into Storm, and should be able to do so for free. Look, oh, okay. Someone put down a launch pad. I'm confused.
Interesting way of rotating. There we go. So I guess that works. But of course, using the vehicle there might be a better option. The free way of rotating, you don't have to spend any launch pads to do that. The fuel is up, I'm sure. Maybe the gas prices are a little bit high right now, but I'm sure they'll be able to manage as they rotate on in. They should go in with a full tank, so that should be good for them. We're seeing Polaris, Phobic, and Rocketman all the way up on high ground, looking for these players that are rotating on in. It's Swerved Trio. They may have just finished a fight, and they may have just come out on top of that, but unfortunately for them, they're going to be the focus. They're going to be the main area that all of these teams are going to be looking at that are posted up on this high ground. Swerved, I don't see them surviving this, as the Storm is going to start doing some big damage shots right now. It's not going to be easy to see if they can rotate on in, because there's so many teams on this high ground. Polaris with 2 eliminations, so they're looking pretty good. And yeah, this team that are rotating in, it's almost going to be impossible for them to make their way in. When this team's up on the high ground, when they have those assault rifles with enough ammo as well, it's going to be tough. And I think they do go down. There's Swerve doing the medkit on the 1 HP, having to take his teammates' loot as well, which is definitely not ideal. It's a 5-tick. He's popping the minis, but he has the launch pad, he has the medkit. Is he going to make it?
Yeah, no, we got that off. This should work if all the visuals are good. We just barely get that off. Nice. Now we can pop the med kit. No. What are we doing? Get out of Storm, bro. Okay, there we go. He's actually gonna walk into another solo. The bank doesn't know that he's a solo. Doesn't matter. Swerve's gone. All right, who cares? He's gone now. Gauge, Shades, Exceed. What you guys got for us?
Well, they had a very good victory royale in game number 4, so let's see if they can manage to come up with something even better, if that's even possible. Maybe a higher elimination victory royale from them. I'm sure they'll be looking for the high ground. It looks as though they're rotating on in, so a really good opportunity for them to clutch up and get some eliminations if they can. We've seen them battling it out in the mid game so far before. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can replicate that success in game number 5, with still another game to go after this. They're 345 above. They're in a really good position.
They are, but, we talked about Isaac's team had such a big lead. They were eliminated very early in this match, and now there's room. There's an opening. There's a small gap here, Miner, for everyone else to make it back. It could be one huge match from one of our top 5 trios, or it could be back-to-back really strong performances to overcome that lead. Now, it's all in the hands of the players in front of us.
Yep, that is absolutely right. The door is wide open. We saw Bizik and Co. sort of utilize that opportunity when the top team of 7 Begs and Mars went down a little bit earlier on in game number 3, and they took strides to win the match. Maybe we'll see Cameron, Coot, and Crater. Maybe we'll see the revenge of 7 Begs and Mars potentially making their way back up to the top. It's going to be exciting to see who does that. But now we're seeing our second place team. Maybe they know it, maybe they don't. Do they know that Bizik, their main enemy, their main target, going into this game number 5 endgame, is down? Do they know it? Are they aware? They are aware that they are on high ground, but they're also more than aware that they are not in zone. They have to make a long rotate. I think they do have a launch pad though, so that's looking good for them. And I think they might be able to hold out the high ground here. Could we see an almost replication of what Bizik did when the door was open for him and his trio?
And this is a really difficult zone. When zones pull like this, over this huge valley, it is so tough to play because if you don't stay above, oh my goodness. If you don't stay above, you're then stuck trying to either climb or just like praying that the zone doesn't pull back up one of these absolutely massive cliffs. Now we'll have to see how it plays out. It's going down, so it's not right in between like it sometimes does pull. Either way, players must be aware in their positioning in this 5th zone. That zone is likely to pull back down or back up one of these massive mountains.
Yeah, positioning yourself accordingly is absolutely vital there. You want to be giving yourself enough elevation because, of course, it's so much easier in this game to drop down than it is to go up. If you have to go up and there's so many teams above you haven't really got the materials, then it's going to be tough. But if you can get yourself on an elevated area, then I think you'll have more of a chance. Now, though, for Mars and Begs, they seem to have lost their teammate in 7. 2 eliminations for them so far, so this is an opportunity for them, even as a duo, to clutch up some points, to clutch up some placement points, maybe some eliminations as well. They get back together. Absolutely vital for them. Go for the Chug Splash opportunity as opposed to the medkit. Maybe they'll get that off as well. And it's all important for them as to where this first moving zone goes. Of course, zone number 6. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes because them as a duo, they're not going to have as many materials. They don't have those mats to really hold that position too well. If if the zone is so far, so it's gonna be tough for them as a duo. The material count is gonna be a bit more detriment to them. We're seeing Gage and Shades and Exceed. These guys have picked up another couple of eliminations since we last checked in with them. That's 5 for them so far. They're really, really good at that, and they're taking this opportunity by storm. We can even see this team going for a little bit more of a push for that top spot as well, as they do get a nice little tag on the other team that's right next to them. I don't think this team are going to be struggling on Storm Surge. They just got to make sure that they can take that high ground because we've seen how good they are at that.
Yeah, it'll really come down to how they play these final few zones. Now we tune in to Felix and Scav up on height. Another team that we've seen perform very, very well. I think they were in 5th heading into this match, and now we see them once again on the high ground position. Felix really likes to hit these pads in this first moving zone, position himself somewhat in the mid of this next zone, and then use 2 pads. But no, this time he decides to go front side. Gonna play it a little bit differently, probably because they're a duo, and this space was wide open. Now we see this zone going across the valley, and the height plays begin. 2 teams start to look for height. There's a battle going on, but right now, it's in the mid ground. It is Crater. It is Camarino looking for plays, pushing through somebody else's tarp. They're able to get 1 knock. Capilati is able to take out Finicky, and actually Exceed is the one taken out by Crater. Gage is going to go down as well. So just talking about them, and they are getting contested on their layer and quickly eliminated.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for our second place team. He says, no! That's unbelievable. It's Grizel going down to 4 damage right there. That is not what you want to be doing when you are on that high ground. Boo are now having to pick up the pieces back in the storm, utilizing those floppers, but no, it's not going to be enough. That is so unfortunate for that high ground team. That's the risk that you run when you do play the high ground with limited connections to the rest of the lobby. Great elimination, though, for Crater and his team. That puts them up to 4 eliminations in total. This is a huge game for them where they mount the attack onto that first place team. Buys it. We know they went down. They got eliminated a little bit earlier on. The zone pulls all the way back up this hill, and for Shades, he has to do it as a solo. Is it going to be possible? Is it even going to be doable for Shades with 3 eliminations as a solo?
He has been able to navigate it thus far. He only has a couple of builds. He's going to look to play this. Zone's actually going to pull very favorable in his position. He can sit here, wait, and then just try and grab a player on the backside of Storm, get that refresh, extend his game. Felix and Scav just got taken out. They are gone. Now we see Berkey, Doinks, and Visky up on the high ground. 8-8 is playing this mid-ground layer. Someone is on the zip line just causing chaos. Now that is just so difficult. Bisky forcing pressure down below. We're going down into the valley. Everyone must either hold their position in this high level or make something different. And Shades goes down. He goes down, I believe, in 8th. 8-8 goes down as well. So looks like a lot of our top trios have fallen. There's some room to make it up the leaderboard within this game.
It really is, but as I just saw right there, Crater going down in the feed. That's our second place team. Camarino going down there in the feed as well, so that could be their game over going into this game. Not too bad for them, though. I believe that's a fourth for them, but Berkey, Doinks, and Bisky, these guys all the way up on high ground. It's now a 3v3 situation. It's high ground versus low ground again. I think it could be Edgistria. Yeah, all the way down on low ground. Danielle gets taken out, I believe, by Storm, so a difficult situation for them as Doinks and Co. try to drop down. They have themselves 12 eliminations here. If they can close this one out with a victory royale, that's going to be absolutely huge for them as Edge tries to make a play for height, gets blocked off, gets absolutely shut down by Doinks, who hasn't got any materials left. 0 mats for him. Can he make this something of a nice elimination going into this? He gets tagged though, a big damage tag, but not gonna be enough to take out the mighty Doinks, Berkey, and Bisky. That's a 13 elimination victory for them.
Yeah, Doink's doing most of that 13 himself. I mean, 10 elims? Jeez, bro, take it easy. There's people trying to play this game. I mean, that's nuts.
That is nuts. 10 eliminations going to one singular player is unbelievable. And I mean, they played that height to perfection. In a game that we saw so many teams going on for high ground, it was almost like who could stack up on top of who. They managed to take it a little bit later. They thought, okay, we'll let all that chaos ensue. We'll let all that go on. They'll just go down to full damage and we'll crank up and take the victory royale, which they did in style with so many eliminations. I think that could be our highest elimination victory to date. So as we saw with another great team, as we saw Gage and Co, they clutched up and moved their way up the leaderboard. That could happen to them too.
Yeah, it really could. Hey, let's take a look at some of the eliminations that happened that game. I mean, there's a good chance we see a lot of those 10 eliminations there. I mean, maybe not, but either way, we're watching what's going down off spawn. Polaris getting the elim. I mean, we're just seeing elims all over the place.
Yeah, so many eliminations, and this is the stage ready in the tournament where a lot of these teams will be thinking, okay, we need to incorporate some eliminations into our game, maybe look towards some more placement, and this is where the changes will be made. So that's why we might be seeing some different strategies coming out from different teams. This little duo clutch though from Jason and Co, they did really, really well to take out Dylan and Derpy and History. So really, really good from them. Shades though, got to shout out Shades here, clutching up as a solo, getting refreshes as well. But it was all about high ground in this end game. Who had high ground? It was Doinks, it was Birkin, it was Bisky. They played it to perfection.
Yeah, little 10 elim game from Doinks. No worries, no problem. He'll do it again. Back to back little 10 elims. I mean, no worries.
Easy, just easy. I mean, you know, it's as easy as that. You know, some of the best players all in one lobby, and it's just 10 eliminations. Easy as that. Just like he was just putting his feet up and enjoying it. And to tell you what, I'm definitely enjoying this as well. We have one more game of Fortnite coming up, and of course the leaderboard. But before we do get into that, we're gonna have to take a short little break. So stick with us, and we'll see you all in a minute. And we are back for the Play vs. College Fall Trio Finals event number 2. Miniminer and Somebody's Gun breaking down all the action for you so far. We've had 5 games of Fortnite action, and action is definitely the correct word to describe what we've seen so far. We still have one more game to go, Gun, but man, has it been intense.
Oh, yeah, and I don't want to say, like, this is the most important game, but it's probably the most exciting one, right? You get the same amount of points regardless of what match it is, but I think it's going to be pretty close on that leaderboard when we take a peek, and there's going to be a lot to play for in this final match, Miner.
Oh, I'm so excited to look at that leaderboard. We saw Isaac and his trio going down a little bit earlier on, so we're going to see what that means for the leaderboard right now. Let's have a little look at what that means. What is it going to say to us on the leaderboard?
Okay.
And wow, the gap has been closed, Gun.
Yeah, it is much closer than I would have expected it to be. Even 7 Begs and Mars and then Felix, Scav, and Miss. There's a shot that they could take that first place. Not without Isaac and Co going down early, but between Camarino and Isaac's trio, this is going to be a really close final match.
It really is. It's the battle of titans right at the top of the leaderboard. But as we scroll on down to the sort of lower end of the leaderboard, there's still potential for these teams to make it into that top 10. It's very, very close. As you see, the distance between 20th and 11th is only about 30, well, exactly 30 points. So it's really one good game can really shoot you all the way up to the top of that leaderboard and into that top 10, which we saw so much of that scholastic prizing being dished out. We saw some great prizes on offer into that top 10. And for these trios, they're all sort of running their own battles. They're all sort of pursuing their own mission. Is their mission to come out on top like Isaac and Co? Are they able to keep that afloat? Is Cameron, of course, trying to take that top spot? Or is it for some of these trios making into that top 10? And that's really the beauty of this tournament.
And there's a lot of pride to play for. A lot of these members have been playing together or against one another for a couple of years at minimum, if not just the past year or so in the play versus scene. So you probably talk to some of these guys on a regular basis, and you don't want your buddy to be like, yo, what's up, bro? You got outplaced in that last trio event. How's that feel? You want to show them up. You want to be the one able to run your mouth and let them know who finished on top.
Yeah, the bragging rights are definitely there. And of course, not just the prizing, as you mentioned. It is, of course, that bragging rights you have. A little bit of banter with the friends, of course, as well. And that really is what we're all about, isn't it? It's all about this play versus. It brings everyone together. It brings so many great opportunities to these players who are in school. This is the high school finals. So, you know, all of these, the college finals. Sorry, this is not the high school finals. I am wrong. It is the college finals. And these guys are still in education. They are still doing incredibly well at that, as well as competing in esports at the highest level. These guys have been putting on a great show today, and a huge credit to all of them.
Yeah, there's a chance we got some doctors and rocket scientists playing in this Fortnite tournament. So the fact that they can even compete at this kind of level while going to school is more than could be said for a majority of the population. So shouts out to them. Well said by you, Miner. And all right. Well, let's focus up. We got one last game. It's time to see how this plays out. All right, I want a prediction from you. Isaac's team, Camarino's team. You got to pick one. Who are you going with?
Ooh, I don't know. I feel like Isaac's experience in this will definitely play a big part. So I'm gonna say Isaac. It's a bit of an easy option because they're already in first. But what about you, Gun?
Oh, man. Well, you took the easy one. I was going to go that same route. I guess for the sake of things, it is Camarino's game. Easy.
Yeah. Absolutely, I have to. Yeah, I mean, so you have to go for the other option, you know. Otherwise, it doesn't make it interesting, does it? You know, we have to choose opposing, and then we'll see who comes out on top in the end. You know, it's not just these trios battling out. It's me and you, Gun. We're seeing who comes out on top. Is it going to be Isaac or is it going to be Camarino? Now, though, we're seeing an Osborne fight brewing towards the, or actually taking place already in the sort of northern IO base, just to the north of the Orchard area, and it looks as though it's Berkey left alone. We saw these guys doing very, very well, of course, in the previous game, getting that great elimination victory round. So not an ideal start for them at all. It's Sigma, Taco King, and Knack. Those guys fighting it out at Holly Hedges. Haven't seen too much action here today, but it seems to be all going down already.
Yeah, lots of changes. I mean, if you're trying to make something work, you might as well make it work in this last game. It's a little too late for some, but plenty of space and time to make plays in this final match, especially if you haven't done super well today. Maybe time to switch it up, find yourself a better spot to land at, give yourself some more opportunities in order to succeed in this match. And we see Taco, Knack, and Sigma contesting Isolate I think they already have one elimination here. Yes, they do. And now they're jumping on Sigma. They're finding him. He is in this corner. That gets shot up real hard. He gets knocked. They're going to have to jump in this. And it looks like Sigma has a potential to make plays all by himself.
He kind of has to in this situation. Soccer King has to try and get himself over to this sort of area, heal himself up as well. They're down to a duo right now. Soccer trying to get the attack, and Sigma does take out Isolate and Smiggy right there. Really, really great play from him. I think he took out the full trio, did he? I think he did right there. Yes, I think he did. They're going to be able to clutch up, get this reboot as well, get this revive off on Knack. A crucial element to the trio, and hats off to Sigma. Yeah, he does. He has 3 eliminations. What a play from him.
What a play is right. Call that putting the team on your back, though, and just taking it over. I mean, sometimes you gotta. Hey, the plays are there, and we're tuning in right now for really the first time, pretty much because Isaac's been unconned. I mean, we don't necessarily need to watch this, but with the importance and the relevance of this first place team, everyone should know. They got about a 20-point lead. And that's either 10 eliminations or the difference between, let's call it, I believe, 5th and 1st place. So there is plenty of potential for things to change at the top of the leaderboard.
Absolutely. The pressure would be mounted on them right now, and in a day where they haven't really had too much of that pressure. So it'll be interesting to see how they handle that. Will they still stick to their guns? Will they switch up a strategy maybe going into the final game? Isaac knows what's up. He knows how to loot the whole Coral Castle area, and including the sharks. They get a lot of loot right there. But now, Coot and his trio getting inside the box, getting some shots off. The shots exchange. He picks up that elimination, and indeed picks up his knock on Demon Snow. Really great elimination from him right there to clutch out that first one. Now it's down to a 3v1, I believe. It looks like that's Coot's second elimination of the game. Really, really great stuff from him so far. No heals at the moment, but Camarino and Crater, this is such an important fight for them to take. If they can win off spawn here, which I think they really should, this could be really huge for them going into the endgame.
And the big thing is that, like we just mentioned, they're only so many points behind. Picking up 3 eliminations right off the rip is more than Isaac and co have at the moment. So just these 6 extra points are closing the gap that much more. Looks like Camarino is going to be able to grab it. He does. Call it 6 quick points, and wow, that is a great start. But not only that, we're taking teams out the lobby. We're helping ourselves with Storm Surge. We're putting ourselves in better positions. So that is a really huge momentum swing early on in this match.
Yeah, that's so true. The momentum will be in their favor right now, and particularly since the Isaac team, we don't really see them fighting off spawn too much. They rely on those sort of mid-game tags. I think rotating to that sort of shard area outside of Pleasant is where they get that Storm Surge. So we're almost seeing polar opposites here. We're seeing a team fighting off spawn, getting those early eliminations, getting that Storm Surge out of the way early, versus a team that decide to go for a less contested spot. They haven't even been contested all day today, but they are going for those tags a little bit later on. It's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top. Now though, we're seeing Scrappy and Jonathan Bank as well in this little engagement. Looks like there's another team rolling on in, quite literally in another vehicle, so they're they're looking for a little bit of engagement right here as well. They're trying to get involved in this fight to join the party. There's 3 teams here now. I think this is going to be, or maybe even 4 teams potentially that are lingering in this area, because there seems to be another team inside of the middle. You see the green arrows, you see the sort of light blue arrows as well. So many different teams that are fighting off spawn here, but no, a huge moment. Ghost has gone down.
Yeah, Ghost is eliminated. We don't know whether or not he got the card. Looks like Isaacs and Ricks are going to be able to walk out of here without being chased. And they have plenty of time on the reboot card. It is not an immediate need. By no means do they need to go jump on a card right away. Especially when you know how important this final match is. Either way, they have to be looking for a play here, whether it be the reboot or just trying to find some way out of this. This is not how you want to start this game if you're this trio, but at the same time, this is how everyone else in the lobby wants to start this game.
Absolutely, yeah, it works in everyone else's favor as opposed to Isaac, and we're almost seeing, again, we're seeing opposites. We're seeing Camarino and his team. These guys have won off spawn. They have really, all of their players are alive, healthy, well. They have the heals as well to go along with it. They have the Storm Surge sorted out already, and then on the complete other side of the spectrum, we're seeing Bizik down to a duo. Hasn't got too much Storm Surge yet, I can imagine. And they're having to try and pick up the pieces and revive their teammate with the reboot van and get their teammate up. Whilst Camarino, Crater, and Coot, these guys can just farm some Storm Surge tags. Maybe they get on top of the Boni Burbs main building, and they try and look for as much as they can. And it's really, really going to put them in a really good situation for endgame. I wouldn't count out Bizik in that yet, though, because they're doing very well. They're already, I think they were a 28-point lead. So they do have a good lead, which is a good amount, actually an 18-point lead going into this. So they do have a good lead, but is it going to be enough for them to hold it out and not have a good game? It all depends on Camarino and co. Will they be able to make this game and make something of it? And it'll be interesting. This is a crucial moment as we almost see a line of players going from Stealthy Stronghold all the way to the bridge by Boni Burbs. That is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know I've ever seen that before. Thank you to our observers for showing us to that, because that is quite interesting. And as that happens, Nermacy quickly removed from the lobby. Capilati, Bulk, and Jason able to take them out. This will be quite a game, especially knowing how many teams have to get those extra points. They're going to play a little more aggressive than normal. And that should really affect Storm Surge. It should affect some mid-game plans. Like, if I'm one of the top trios, at this point in the game, if I have my Storm Surge, if I have my damage, I'm trying to avoid everyone. I do not want to take these fights because only things can go wrong. A couple of points really isn't going to be a huge swing for you at this moment.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I think that definitely rings true for a lot of the games, but maybe for some of these teams, this is now a now or never sort of situation. You know, maybe they need those elimination points. Maybe they will be a little bit more aggressive, and often you do see that going into the final game. Teams that need the points will be a little bit more aggressive. That's why I think we're seeing a little bit less players remaining than we have seen before. 84 players, by no means, is a small number. There's still so many players left alive and standing, but for teams like Capilati, they do need some eliminations on the board to even come close to anywhere near the top. So it's going to be interesting to see whether they do go for that or whether they stick to their guns and think, okay, we're just going to play it normally, play our placements, and settle for a little bit lower of a placement, but more of a guarantee to that placement. Now that we're hopping on board with Felix, Starve, and Mystic, these guys are looking good. Goes to the full box there. Felix doesn't quite connect with the shot. Another shot doesn't quite connect either. Gets the third, though. Really, really great stuff from him. He does have some heals to heal his way back up if he does decide to do that. This is the fight that we were talking about earlier, though. These are the fights that you don't necessarily want to take, but for some teams, they have to. Gets inside the box, though, for Felix. Does take out Swerved as well as Swerved's teammate. Now it's all down to the solo. It's a 3v1 situation for Felix and co. Swerve down on the ground right there as Mystics manages to get that elimination. A really, really crucial elimination for this team. Gets themselves sorted on the Storm Surge. Gets themselves a refresh as well. And you really don't want to be going down at this stage.
No, you don't. 2 more points. I guess 4 more points scooped up by Miss Scav and Felix. Beautiful mid-game fight. Cleanly taken. Pressure from multiple angles. Not getting third party to able to secure all that loot. That's how you want to do it. That's how they draw it up in the Fortnite books. Somewhere there's a Fortnite book that says that, I promise. If not, you can let me know. And here we see another trio, 7 Bags and Mars. These guys are going to be able to find their position. Hopefully in this game, we're seeing one of these very far north zones, and this has to be huge for Bizik, Rix, and Enco. They are such a good position with the zone pulling all the way up to Steamy Coral area. With having to reboot and grab their teammate's card, this will help them get in a much better spot and not be as scuffed as if they were having to move all the way south.
Yeah, that was perfectly explained there. Absolutely. They are really in a good position because, as you mentioned, they can get that reboot off. They don't have to rotate towards zone too much, so maybe they may even be able to pick up some loot that they may have discarded at the Coral Castle and Shark looting areas. So I think it could be a very, very good zone for them. It could turn the tides in their favor if they can now get on the Storm Surge side of things. I believe it looked as though they were going up onto this area that Danielle and co are pitched up on. And I think they were trying to go for the Storm Surge tags here, but no, there is a team here already. It's Danielle, it's Skies, and it's Edge. These guys, we've seen them dominating on top of that pyramid in the center of the map. You can see in the background there. But now they've opted to go for the more traditional area because, of course, the pyramid's very, very new. They're going to the shards, the corrupted area mothership. broken shards, and they're going up. For Bicycle and Co, they're going to have to settle for something a little bit different, a little bit out of the ordinary, and no, they don't pick up Ghost, interestingly enough, so it might be a duo clutch from Bicycle and Rix here. It might have to be. They might have been forced out of their area to revive Ghost. Maybe they didn't get the reboot card in the end as well, so it's not looking too good for Bicycle and Rix, but from what we've seen from both of these players as individuals, they're definitely more than capable of clutching here.
No doubt, no doubt. And they're right on the reboot van, so if they were able to reboot, if they had the card, I would fully expect them to have rebooted at this point. There's no reason not to. So, they're playing this as a duo. This is stressful. I ain't gonna lie. Like, for these players, even for me, it's a little stressful to see this first place team now starting to lose their gap. And, oh, what are we doing here? Isaac looks like he's jumping on somebody.
They're below.
Oh, yeah, this is a Storm Surge play. He's finding Capilati. Capilati's getting comms. No, he's not. Capilati looks like he's all by himself. Now the plays come through. Isaac hits some shots. Not enough to get any significant damage. Capilati's going to get taken out. Nope, just cracked his shield. Isaac's going to chase a little longer. Still below. Storm Surge continuing to tick. Trying to get some shots on. 7 players have to go down. Isaac and Rix are in a really bad spot. I don't see where Rix is at. I think he might... No, yeah, he's right behind Isaac. So they should be able to get some shots here. It looks like the players are fighting right in front of them. Now just need to be careful. They're not out healing the Storm Surge. I highly doubt that. We got to hit some shots.
Yep, hitting the shots is going to be what's absolutely vital here, but no, for Bizik, it doesn't quite happen. He's now 132 below. He hasn't got the heals either. This would be such an unfortunate way for this team to go down in game number 6, the final game. They've had almost the nightmare finish, so they're absolutely dominating day so far as Riggs has to make a play. He's a solo up in the air. He's going to get beamed. He's going to go down nearly. If it's not to the beams from the players, it's going to be to Storm Surge as King Bout hops in the box, gets the elimination. Now Bizik has to clutch up, having to use the peppers. Every single heal that he has the potential to use, he's gonna have to do it, but no, it's not gonna be enough, I don't think, for Bizik. Don't count him out, but now you can. He has gone down. Our first place team has gone down, and I think that is the widest door I have ever seen open for this team, for Cameron, for Coot, for Crater. All of these guys, they have an opportunity. Camerino's team, this is their moment.
The barn door is open, like you said. Now these guys have to make it work. We'll check on them, see where they're at. We know they had a few eliminations earlier. Looks like Pearl, Nathaniel, and Glitch are just looking for it. Yes, they're still alive. They're healthy. The mats aren't looking the best, but they're in a much better spot than our first place team at the moment. First place has got to be sitting here watching, hoping they go down early, because Camerino and co, all they have to do is survive this endgame. Now I say all. That is a big task. That is a massive task here, Miner.
It is a huge task indeed, but for one of the sort of worrying things that you need to worry about, which is the Storm Surge to be ticked off. You tick that off the to-do list, you know, you've done your bit, you've got your Surge, at least for this first, potentially second Surge as well. They'll be happy. They can probably ride this placement all the way up until potentially that 5th zone when that half and half pulls, because going to be an interesting way of them getting the Storm Surge. They don't want to be too aggressive and push a team, but they will have to go for these triple sprays, but they're doing effectively well right there. Getting a knock as well. Can they get that elimination? They can. That was Dust Bunny right there going down. Crater picks up that elimination. That's only going to add to their mountainous pile of Storm Surge tags that they are picking up right now. They have 4 eliminations. They're on the edge of zone there. They're likely not to pull 4th, which is going to be the absolute most crucial rotate. Probably the most important rotate they've had to make today, potentially in their entire season or even Fortnite competitive career. This is an important one for them. If they can make it, and they can make it into that 5th zone, you really have to think that they're going to be coming out on top today, because although Bizik and co, they managed to clutch up a little bit in terms of the placement, potentially they're able to get maybe an elimination point potentially. I don't think they'll be able to hold out if Crater, Camerino, and Coot, if they can make their way into... Wow. I have to stop for a moment. Look at this. This is unbelievable. Knack, Taco, and Sigma, they have just built what can only be described as almost a skyscraper in the sky.
Called a super ramp or something like that. You see these, you know, at the end of scrims, typically when it's like the last game and everyone's trying to claim their position, but this is actually a lot stronger than you would expect. It's a 4-wide, fully built metal, a skyscraper, like you said. This is crazy, and honestly, if Zone pulls their way, this might work.
This really could. It is a now or never play almost, isn't it? You know, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to risk it. This is the time when it's a gamble. You know, it is a gamble. Will you pull zone? Will you pull it? You're on the edge. You know, it's fourth zone. There's still 2 seconds until that storm does start to close. So we're going to have a little bit of a while and a little bit of a wait until we find out whether Knack and Co. will be able to clutch that up. And I think they're confident in the fact that they will. They're really, they're really confident here. They're reinforcing this as well, making sure they have as much metal as possible in a really commanding position. They're almost as tall as those corrupted mothership shards, which that is a tall building, and if they can get some refreshes, that could work out in their favor. Getting that commanding position towards this side of the map definitely could work out in their favor for our third place team going into this. So it's 7 Begs and Mars, definitely not out of the question yet either. I think if Camarino and Coot and Cracer, if they have a good game, I think it's going to be out of the reach for 7 Begs and Mars, but I think they could definitely clutch up a second potentially if they have a good game as well. As now we're hopping back on board with our potentially going into our first place team. This could be our first place team by the end of it. They're in second place as of right now, probably. They haven't quite done enough, I don't think, to recoup that 18-point deficit that they had over the under the Bizik team in first place. Which, of course, as we know, if you have just tuned in, Bizik's team were in first place. They had an 18-point lead, but they did go down. They were down, and Crater trying his best not to go down as well. And this is a moment where they have to just chill. They cannot take any more tags. They don't need it. They really don't need eliminations, and they definitely don't need Storm Touch.
Man, I don't know what was going on. They were getting so greedy for just one elimination. You need to make this endgame. And now I'm taking a look at the inventory. Like, that is just greed at its finest. Now it looks like Polaris and Co are starting to push. The fight's coming to them. They have to get out of here. At least one of them does. Now it looks like Polaris actually is going to back out. Crater's building some space. They're making the rotate. A chance to breathe. A slight opening has been shut. And now the battle for first place continues.
I'm sure they would have been shaking throughout that fight, because this is a great opportunity for them to really clutch up some play, some points, and going down off at this stage of the end game, almost the beginning of the end game, is really not what you want. You spent so long looting, getting into a good position to get eliminated by that would be an absolute nightmare. But no, they pick up an elimination themselves. They're so good at that. They picked up one. That's now, is that 6 eliminations for them? It is 6 eliminations for this team. A crucial refresh, potentially on heals as well, as we see that team go down in that area. Inside the middle of the inside the middle of the map right now, the middle of the sort of mid ground, and Clayton and Danielle on the opposite sides of the high ground. It doesn't look as though that massive skyscraper did pay off, but it looks as though we do have a team. It's Danielle potentially on their own up on high ground, and the team that would have been looking for the high ground but don't quite have it right now. It's Shades, Exceed, and Gage. They do have 4 eliminations to their name, and they of course have that mythic burst assault rifle. Will they put it to good use? We're about to find out.
Oh man, it's gonna be a close one, Miner. All of our top trios are still in it, minus our first place team, leaving that opening to give us this excitement, the awesome end game finish. And now we're gonna see this go right through, and appears like right on the outskirts of this wall. See Shades starting to tarp in. They have those extra materials. He's trying to get as far as he can, knowing that all that extra metal that can be replenished. And we're going to continue checking in with our top trios, making sure we stay updated, understanding where everyone is, and we will likely see these trios collide during this endgame. There's only so much space. Camarino leads the tarp, starts to put himself forward. It is Edge 4 on height in the front side of zone. He's going to be looking to play this. Missed Felix and Scav in the air. Now they're starting to make their rotate. Riddix goes down, and Edge 4 is going to look to play front side here with his teammates playing behind him. He's going to reinforce this high ground play. Beautiful plays. And, oh, someone's actually coming up. Nope, but decided they're just boxing on there. They don't actually want to play height. Edge 4 up there. His teammates get right to him, and once again, reestablished on height.
Yeah, I think when you have the experience of Edge and his trio all the way up on high ground, you really don't want to be contesting that. We talked about it in the solos the other day about how good of a player Edge is and how much of a veteran he is inside of this sort of play versus sort of collegiate scene. He's definitely made a big name for himself, and hopefully for them they'll be able to clutch up as Banks gets another elimination in the feed. That's Conman going down in there as well. Mars getting the full finish, and there we can see the result of that elimination. Looks like they are trying to look for high ground. They're looking for a big finish to this. They're looking to finish this with a bang. If they can manage to find the high ground. That's going to be absolutely vital for them. I'm keeping an eye on the elimination feed as well, just making sure that our top teams aren't going down for them. Hopefully they're going to have a good game. I'm trying to have a look at Shades Exceed all the way down on low ground, so an exciting moment for them if they can clutch up. Trying to look at Camarino as well. He is in the mid ground. Looks as though their full trio are alive, healthy, and well. So that's good to see. As it's, yeah, there they are. We can hop on board with them. They still have those 6 eliminations, which is looking good. But the material count gun, it's not looking too good so far.
No, it's not looking good at all, at least not for Cut, and he's going to run into some issues. They may have taken over first place, but there's a number of trios in this game that can overtake them. It is by no means over. The top 10 and up is the big placement points. That's where you want to be. Now we see the 88 squad up on high ground. They're trying to lock it in. They're trying to hold it down and win this final match. Secure themselves with that extra cash from those placements, and we see Lomain up on the height, able to get a knock there. That should come through. We are in the top 10. I haven't seen any of the big names go through and drop just yet. A lot of our trios that we're watching in this final match are still alive. Beggs is still up. Felix is still up. Cap is still, or Camarino is still up as well. Everyone is still in this game, and it is the 88 crew raining it down from up above.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. We're hopping on board with our trio right now. This is the team that's hunting them down. Will they be able to clutch up, or will they fall just too early to clutch up and get that first place spot? Coot right now jumping in the box. Has he bitten off more than he can chew? No, he gets out, which is good. But no, Crater goes down in the feed. That's not going to be good for this team. They are now down to a duo. A duo clutch could still happen. 10 players remain, which is not ideal for them at all. 7 getting eliminations in the feed, as is Shades. So they are keeping up their points and making sure they can get as many as they can. No bills, though, for Coot as he gets inside the box, gets a knock, but not quite a knock there, actually. Doesn't quite get the elimination, as Camarino having to play the backside of zone. Only 4 mats now, only 4 builds to his name. Is he going to be able to make something happen? He jumps inside the box, but no, Camarino goes down. So does Lomain, quite literally falling down from high ground. That's so unfortunate, as 7 goes down as well. Camarino we saw going down to Micah. Mars having to clutch up with a solo. We've seen him do it before, but not again. Wow, this is an intense endgame.
It is chaos going on in the end game, and it looks like Felix and Co. are the one healthy trio that's able to move through. Capilati is popping off. He's got 8 eliminations, trying to make a solo play. Height is forcing him down, pressuring him from up above. He's still alive. He's still making a play. Now he's on the wall of a full trio, gets to the box. Big shots on the Mystic. Not enough. He goes down. Now it is Scav, Felix, and Mystic. They're looking up above. It's the high ground team that is going to look to control this, but Scav, Mystic, and Felix have a good bit of materials. They're going to start to play this heal off, looking to make a pad, looking to make a play. It's Gage, Shades, and Exceed up on the high ground. Felix is going to go down, and that's it. Gage, Exceed, and Shades have taken it. Was that enough? Oh my goodness.
Wow, it is going to be so close. Gage, Shades, and Exceed right there. I think that was an 8 elimination victory royale for them yet again on a high ground. This team are the team of big games, and once again, they've turned up in the biggest game, the most important game for them, the final game. They have clutched up. The leaderboard is going to look crazy. It's going to be exciting to see who's mixed up in the top, who took the top spot, who didn't. I love to see this. This is all very exciting, and we're going to have to relive some of the moments from that game of the 6th gun, because, man, it was madness.
Miner, I can normally have a good idea of who is the winner. I'm pretty good at keeping track of all that going on. That was just utter chaos. Like, this whole game was just a constant heavyweight battle. The best of the best collegiate trios here. And that was, oh my goodness, just watching this back and seeing how some of these trios competed. Some of the plays where they go head to head. I mean, Bags, Mars, and 7 went for the high ground play. They wanted it. Capilati popping off. And my goodness, this was crazy.
My goodness, indeed. It was crazy. Shades, Gage, and Exceed. We've seen how good they are up on that high ground, and yet again, they are proving why they are the high ground kings. When they have it, they don't give it up, and they are so dominant. They know when to go up for it. They didn't have it for the whole of that end game. We didn't see an absolute domination from them, but what we did see was a really, really good opportunity for them to take it a little bit later on and clutch up so effectively well to pick up the victory royale in game number 6. Probably the most difficult game to get the victory royale in, I'd say, because there's so much pressure, the nerves are high, and everyone's playing for as many points as they can.
Yeah, everyone is trying to win that game. Everyone's trying to win every game, but more specifically that last game, everyone's trying to make plays. And we talked about, I think it was after their last win, Gage, Exceed, and Shades were in 25th place. They rose up to 7th. I would be very surprised if they're anywhere below 4th place after those matches. They have just stormed up the leaderboard and taken this tournament by storm. I have no words. You guys are incredible.
Yeah, they really are. Every single team today has performed exceptionally well at the highest level, giving us, and I'm sure you guys at home, such an incredible spectacle to witness today. We've seen some of the greatest teams go for some incredible plays. We've seen teams develop their strategies throughout, maybe a switch up of drop spots, high ground, low ground. We've seen different teams in different areas of the game popping off as well. We've seen teams with high eliminations going into the end game, teams with slightly lower eliminations but more consistency, namely Isaac and co. They haven't gone into the end games in too good of a state really with the eliminations and the Storm Surge, but they're so good at clutching up and why they sort of dominated for so long, but their consistency didn't last too long. It didn't last enough of a time because they sort of fell towards the last 2 games.
Yeah, it's tough, and Fortnite is a very, very difficult game. These players make this look so easy, especially like what we just saw from the first half of this tournament from Bizax's trio. They were like every single game in the final zone. That is insanely difficult to do. I don't even care if you're the best trio in the world. It is hard to do that game after game, considering all of the factors that can go in. And now, I mean, one trio I want to give a shout out to, Camarino. You guys just absolutely took over the second half of the tournament. I mean, I don't know if you were able to secure enough points to win it, but my goodness, that was so much fun to watch. Thank you for all that they were able to do, because man, I'm a viewer just like most of the people watching. I'm sitting here having fun watching these games, Miner.
Yeah, me too. It's been an absolute blast, and we've seen some of the best once again doing it on the big stage, and we've seen basically almost a runaway train in the Bizax trio, and eventually they ran out of track, which is good to watch. You know, I'm sure they won't be happy with that, but it was good to watch. It was exciting to see who would come out on top, and I love it when it goes down to the last game, because it really is anyone's game. A high elimination victory royale, when we saw, you know, the point system does definitely favor the placements, but combining that with eliminations, we saw so many teams do, it can really turn the tables. We saw Gage's trio going from 25th, I think it was, all the way up to 7th. I think it was game number 3 where they managed to clutch up and get that. That was insane from them. Well, there's so many highlight moments that we have to pick out from today, you know, not just from the top teams, but also from teams that we really haven't heard of too much and really put a name out for themselves there.
Yeah, it is just impressive. From top to bottom, we saw the best talent in the collegiate scene, and I'm sure we'll see them again. You mentioned it at the top of the show. It is currently open enrollment for the PlayVS next session. So if you guys are trying to play that, if you want to participate in these, if you're sitting back watching, you're like, oh, dude, I can so take down Bizax's trio. All right, put your money where your mouth is. Come and participate in this next tournament series they have coming up. Check out PlayVS.com and make sure you read the rules. Make sure you're in college and go ahead and sign up your trio.
Yep, and to expand on that, the enrollments for that do close on the 7th of December. So if you are eligible, make sure to get you and your trio all signed up to that by the 7th of December. Then, of course, the qualifier number 1 for that does kick off the day later, the 8th of December. The second opportunity to qualify for the semifinals then does start at on the 10th of December. Then, if you can manage to make your way all the way up to the semifinals, you can make your way all the way there on the 15th of December and all the way to the finals on the 17th of December. But before we do take a look at the leaderboard, before we do close out today, we do have a special community game organized by every one of the players today and PlayVS in memory of Control, and they will be landing all at Believer Beach in this special occasion game. It's going to be so much fun.
Yeah, awesome to see this. I mean, the community doing the best that they can, and this is just one of those fun moments in remembrance of someone that's been really important to this PlayVS scene. We'll see how this plays out. I mean, you don't often get to see this kind of battle happen.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what I love about Fortnite, the community, the Fortnite community coming together to really sort of pay their respects to such a, and look at that from Gage. That is beautiful, isn't it? It's great to see everyone landing at Believer Beach and wearing some of his favorite outfits and, some of his favorite drop spots. And of course, some of these players will be colleagues and friends and so many people that he would have met and known through this whole scene, and a really, really great way for all of these players to remember their friend and their colleague, and a great asset to the whole PlayVS scene in such a great platform in Fortnite. We talk about it, how the competitive scene is so competitive. We have so many opportunities to see some of the best on the highest level where the stakes are high. But isn't it nice just to sit back and really appreciate what this game has brought to so many people and so much happiness to all of these players, and a really great opportunity for so many.
And Gage still holding it down on top of the hotel. We see everyone just getting in little engagements all over the place. It's been an interesting one, and in case you're wondering, no, this game does not count. This is just to show respects for Control, and make sure you type !Control in chat. Help out and support his family if you can. But these guys love to see it, supporting their opponents, because a lot of times, only a few of these guys were actually able to play with Control. Everyone else is merely a component or opponent, but showing respects to the man. And it's awesome to see, man. This really this warms my heart.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's great to see, and this is what it's all about. There's a community behind this. There is a community not just behind the game of Fortnite, but behind the entire PlayVS collegiate scene, and this is a prime example of what PlayVS is all about. It's about community. It is about everyone coming together and sort of bringing an amazing little way to sort of commemorate. That's they're amazing right there. I mean, I'm lost for words. Great to see so many players, and big respects to Control, and my heart goes out to him and, of course, his family in this difficult time. But we're going to be taking a look at the leaderboards. Of course, a very, very exciting time for us because we saw it go down. Who is coming out on top? Gun, it is Camerino.
Oh, my goodness. Wow, dude, that is Camerino and Crater take it. And not only was that the only movement in the final game, Felix, Scav, and Mist are able to take second place. Isaacs, Risk, and Ghost fall to third. Then Seven Pegs and Mars, Shades, Gage, and Exceed take fifth place. That was crazy. That is all from that final match. That was... I have no words.
Such a big switch up in the leaderboards. We hop back down to the 11th to 20th as well. This is some big money getting into that top 15 as we saw. We see Conman, Leppy, and Renegade, those guys just about making themselves just outside of that top 10. We see Mandinka, Zakari, and Archer. We saw them a lot today as well. Yeah, very respectable 172 points there for them as well. Rocketman, Phobic, and Polaris, of course, they're making themselves into that top 20, which is, of course, where the cash is. And a really, really great tournament all around today. I thought we had a really, really great selection of players going from high ground to low ground, different strategies, and to top it off, we had an amazing last game. It was unbelievable. We saw players going back and forth, left and right, who was going to come out on top, and we found out right there it was Camerino and his team, so congratulations to them. What a day they've gone.
That was incredible, and I'm glad to be able to cast it alongside you, Miner. You're an amazing dude. Appreciate you having me alongside of you, and man, to close this out, just respect to both Control and his family. I want to say thank you to PlayVS, to the community for being so respectful. I mean, an awesome tournament, but also an awesome community behind it. So final words, Miner, and take us home.
Yeah, absolutely right. And once again, please do put !Control in the Twitch chat to find the GoFundMe to support Control and his family at this difficult time. But that is all we have time for today. Thank you to everyone for tuning in today and witnessing one of the most incredible 6 games of Trios format Fortnite I have seen. Hope you guys did enjoy today, and thank you all for watching. We will see you all very, very soon for some more Fortnite action, I'm sure. Thank you for watching.